Conspiracies, government cover-ups, Earth mysteries, monster cryptids.
Hospital Porters, Pride and Dignity. Stop the New World Order. Welcome to HPANWO TV and welcome to this reply to comments 127, the 127th video in which I reply to your comments, hence the title. Now, the reason I am making this video is because I get a lot of comments on my very popular channel and I don't have time to reply them all by text because there are too many. However, a lot of these comments are very well thought out. The viewer goes into a lot of effort, a lot of mental effort and physical effort to create these comments. Some of them aren't giving me direct feedback or asking me specific questions. I feel obliged to reply. And this is the way I do it. Now, you might think this is a bit of a stupid way of doing it, Ben. I only want to reply to one comment. I'm not going to watch a 9-hour video for that. Well, you don't have to, for two reasons. Firstly, I'll put a timestamp under the comment I'm replying to you, telling you to within the nearest hour about when I'm going to reply to that comment. So an hour is the most you'll have to watch. It's not too bad. Also, my reply to comments videos are not 9 hours anymore. They used to be, but they're a lot shorter now because I do them more often. And I enjoy doing these videos too. There's some of them are really, really good. Some of my favorites. And you, the viewers, you enjoy watching them. I know some of you watch them all the way through, comment or no comment. And as Stephen Molyneux said, it preserves the comments as a precious philosophical dialogue, which for him are almost as important as his uploads. And when he got banned from YouTube, he said that was a real tragedy. Even though he had all his videos backed up on old tech, he lost all those comments. And all the people who made them lost them. And indeed, in this day and age, I know that YouTube say they're less censorship, they're less censorious than they used to be, but well, no apology, no restitution, no promise they're not going to change their minds again. So it is possible that I might lose more videos and maybe lose my channel. I've already lost about 20 videos, and so yeah, the reply to comments videos to preserve those comments, whatever happens to the particular videos. Now, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can actually find the comment you're looking for using the search function. Just put Control F and a keyword in on your username, and you can find it much quicker that way. So that's how it works. So let's begin with the first comment that was put on the channel at the end of the last comment reply cycle. And it was on Artemis 2 launch livestream, and it was Art's channel saying UFOs seen around Artemis 2 in space. Really? You don't see either the Apollo rockets, the Apollo craft also had that. Well, regardless of whether they were to the moon or not, but yeah, and Buzz Aldrin actually confirmed that Apollo 11 had. They saw a UFO on Apollo 11, and I'm inclined to believe because this. They got no reason to make that up. I mean, and indeed, they were concerned about reporting it. Wherever they were, they saw this video. Oh, now we come to reply to comments 126 YouTube, and Wow Signal gets the gold tinfoil hat. First comment, well done, Wow Signal. That's 6EQUJ5. It's on its way to you. And we have the welcome return of Professor Unwin Most. Secondly most, silvery tinfoil hat load to you, Professor. And now we've already got a thread here. We have Steve Polish, who says on 126, I think Steve Mumbling suggesting you can prove him wrong by naming who it is who had the two back of the head shots, Ben. You do possess a great knowledge of these individuals in the Wooniverse, and it's logical to assume you'd recall the more violent or strange events surrounding the demise of one in such uncommon circumstances. Well, I don't exactly remember what Steve Mumbling said, and I could prove him if I could name him, but I've just told you I can't name him. Despite obviously this is one area of the Wooniverse that I have unfortunately lost I've unfortunately lost my connection to, but anyway, Steve Mumbling says, not quite. He could prove me wrong by naming who it is that shot himself in the back of the head twice. This would be a rather spectacular feat. Yet there doesn't seem to be any info out there on the net about it. Lol. All right, well, I've answered that, and I'll answer it again, because I know this comes back, Steve, so I will answer that at the time. Because I know you've put another comment on about that coming up later. As it happens, though, I'll repeat what I said. I don't know. I remember somebody. I don't know who it was. Vordanian 808 says, I think Nick Pope has passed away. Not sure if it's true, though. Well, that was 4 weeks ago, and we know now, of course, yes, it was true. And I've done a little obituary to Nick Pope, and I've actually mentioned this on the live stream. you know, I am very sad. As you know, Nick and I didn't always see eye to eye, but so, you know, he was still part of the furniture. You switched on TV or watched a movie about UFOs, and you'd expect to see him there, giving his own unique sort of like ambience to the production. And yeah, I was sad to find, because we're never going to see that again now. I actually had dinner with Nick once in London, him and Tabitha, his partner at the time, years ago, and it's we had a really good time, really good discussion. But I saw him in Contact in the Desert last year, as you know, and I was pleasant. I had a brief but pleasant interaction with him. I'm very glad I did that now. That's the last time I ever saw or spoke to him. So rest in peace, Nick. Ufology will not be the same without you. And we have on 126 Spaceman, who says here, I have it. That Tim Good book I have that Tim Good book, Need to Know, and a few others above, Liaison, Beyond. Did you ever meet him in your travels, Ben? Yes, I did, Spaceman. Those are excellent books, like all of them. I met him at the first ever UFO Truth magazine conference. He's a big, tall guy, very old. Yeah, and Neil says, I was in a TV audience with Tim Good many years ago. It was on a Need to Know basis. Oh, he's great. He is. And the Spaceman says here on 126, R.I.P. Nick Pope. Yeah, he's gone. We've lost old Nick. And we have here 126 David Smith, who says here, aliens have stolen your poles, mate. Plain as day, it happens. You didn't lose them or forget them where you put them. That would be a clown's day off fallacy. Don't be such a closed-minded skeptic, Ben. Touche, David. Touche. Of course, David is referring to my green screen. I haven't got it on today, actually. I've only used it once or twice. Twice I've used it. Yeah, it's not that the poles are missing. The problem is that the poles. The problem is the poles to the horizontal pole is too short. I need to find an extension. I'm looking for some of those bamboo rods they use in garden centers, and I'm searching for those, but I need to find them just the right size. But yeah, I will use it again after that. Does it really make much difference? Probably does from a technical point of view. 126 David Smith again says, it's funny you talk about knowing about what's going on in your head. You talk about when quite often I hear you claim people dismiss UAP-related claims due to fear of change. That does sound a bit hypocritical, Ben. What? It's funny you talk about what's going on in your head when quite often I hear you claim people dismiss UAP due to fear of change. That does sound quite hypocritical, Ben. I don't understand. Sorry. Could you clarify? For what it's worth, I thought you just embellished a little, likely based on the idea that you believe these people were silenced, as you're now claiming it was someone else you were thinking of. I think Steve may have a point to keep asking for the information on it. Oh, are you referring to you're going back to this thing again, where I said that I made a mistake about Mark McCandlish. Okay. Right, and here we go, 126, David Smith. How many incredible units does a gold box claim have to be, Ben? Where does it sit on the scale? You claim paranormal has been demonstrated. Where? When? The cases you point to lack that repeatable evidence. When peer-reviewed or tested claims fail to stand up, and then you make another claim about how the scientific community is rigged in some way, it means you have unfalsifiable claims and demonstrate you're not searching for the truth, as only confirmation of your beliefs being true will be acceptable. Well, again, the gold blocks claim, that is the idea that you get an email from the Nigerian princess who's got some gold for you in a vault in Lagos, but you have to send her the £200 transfer fee. Where does that sit on the scale in terms of incredible units? I don't know, but that is incredulous. But then you compare that, believing in that, to believing a paranormal claim. I think that's your point here. For reasons you state here that's actually there's no point, because it's basically on the same level as the gold box scam. But that's not true, though, David. I mean, where's it been demonstrated? When? Point to claims of repeatable evidence, peer-reviewed, or they fail to stand up with peer-reviewed or tested. Well, I suggest, look at ghost hunting. Look at ufology. Look at people hunting Bigfoot and things like that, and just look at the evidence they present, and look at how it's not just that some may, the more important, the more mainstream scientists disagree with them, the scientific community. It's not just that they disagree; it's the way they disagree. And we just had this with Mick West. Mick West has just done an interview about the missing scientist, and it's pathetic. It's pathetic. He just goes on saying, well, people do get murdered, people do disappear, and I mean, there's a million people in the scientific community, are there not? So surely, statistically, it's likely some of them are going to disappear, and which is a bit. I can't find it now. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter which one it is. You can find it. It's on the I think it's Big Science Guy, the channel. So statistically, of course. I mean, I always joke with my viewers. He says, I've got 100,000 subscribers. Well, 4 of them are going to die this week. Oh, it's a connection. It's the Mick West conspiracy. No, you see, because when you look at the actual details of the individual cases, how many of those members of Mick West's community, his followers on Twitter, he's got hundreds of thousands, how many of them go out leaving their keys and their wallet and their mobile phone behind? Things like that. How many of them work on specific projects to do with UFOs? That kind of thing. So the scientific community is rigged, David, but it's not rigged by. There's not some there's not some chairman of some university in Oxford or Harvard or somewhere handing out diktats to various deans and various directors and commandants and things like that. It's rigged by people being brought up living in an environment where they're trained in a certain way. There's a certain culture, and to use that overused phrase, paradigm. That's how rigging works. It's nowhere near as simple as people just hand out orders. Well, that wouldn't work because there's too many people. I was having an argument with someone about the moon landings about this on Alt-Tech. It doesn't work like that. And now we have David Smith again on 126. If your Clownsday off fallacy is so great, why not share it on one of the skeptic call-in shows? Share it on one of the skeptic call-in shows. Of course, you mean Matt Dillahunty, don't you? You won't be satisfied with anything other than Matt Dillahunty. Well, I mean, I have been on skeptic call-in shows, as you know. I have explained this to you, I think, last time. Instead of telling me to check your other content, can you actually name the video or show where you had a proper debate with a skeptic on the paranormal claims? Oh, blimey. Well, why can't you find these? Why? I showed you my skeptic portal, for goodness sake. Hang on, David. This is the last time I'm going to do this. I'm not here to spoon feed you. Okay, you're an adult. Please, could you work this out for yourself? Oh. I do actually think that sometimes these skeptics, they're just trying to use up our time. Here we go. This is the skeptics portal. Okay, have a look through that. You'll find it. It can be a challenge to quote you quite often because you don't commit much to written comments. But for example, when you say can't then say, well, you know, if you're asking me if I have pennies in my wallet, and I'll say, no, I don't have pennies in my wallet. And then you say, you can say I have pennies in my wallet. I'm not going to show you. And then you can say, well, that means you've actually got an invisible pink unicorn in your pocket. That analogy is drivel, Ben. What? Well, firstly, your spelling and grammar is all over the place. I can't say that one. I think what you mean is you are asking about me whether I have something in my wallet which you can't see yourself. And then I say, you've got an invisible pink unicorn in your pocket. I've got an invisible pink unicorn in my pocket. Okay. Okay. This is you continue. So then you do have a burden of proof because I can then it doesn't mean that I have to disprove that you have a unicorn called an I have a unicorn. I don't then have to disprove that. I don't have to prove I have an invisible unicorn in my pocket. You have to prove that I do, rather than I have to prove that I don't. You see what I mean? Yeah, that's a quote from me. Okay, you have to prove that I do, rather than prove that you don't. And then David says, that's a quote from me. He says, this is gibberish. You twist yourself up and don't seem to understand my initial comment or the logic behind it. Well, you haven't written very clearly. You've said, you know, if you're asking me if I have pennies in my wallet, and I'll say, well, no, I don't have pennies in my wallet. No, there's no punctuation here. And you can say, you can say, I have pennies in my wallet, I'm not going to show you. And then you can say, well, that means you've actually got, you see, you're not very clear here. But I don't think it's gibberish, because, you know, if I'm speaking gibberish, and I'm surprised you're taking this position, because this is one that skeptics commonly promote themselves. And indeed, James Randi has said this many, many times. You know, if you're saying that if I say to you, I've got an invisible pink unicorn in my pocket, then there is a burden of proof on you to disprove that. Are you saying that? Because it's in my pocket, but I can't show you. And then you have a burden of proof to dispute that. Because that doesn't make any sense. That makes no sense at all. Because then again, there is no burden of proof in that sense. There was no burden of proof. And I'm surprised you disagree with me, because this is a common skeptic statement which I actually agree with. Anyway, David Smith says here, I know you talk of skeptics. You did one with a guy named Owen, but in my humble opinion, you wound your neck in a bit. I know you talked a guy named Owen, but you wound your... Was Owen a skeptic? I don't know. Oh, Owen McDonald. I don't think Owen McDonald's a skeptic. I think he's quite left. He's more kind of left-wing activist. But we did debate politics, and of course, he's more left-wing than I am. In my humble opinion, you wound your neck in a bit, which is why it probably wasn't very well liked by the commenters, and it didn't touch on anything paranormal, I can remember. Right? Yeah, we talked about politics mainly, and I didn't go over the top with him, because obviously we disagreed quite a lot. He actually asked me for an interview. He's someone Rin Michaelis recommended to me. The reason I wound my neck in, as you put it, in other words, stayed calm and didn't talk about anything too contentious, is because this particular issue in my country, at least, is very divisive. It's called the culture war, even, and sometimes it does turn into a genuine war. And so I tried to be as diplomatic as possible as I could with Owen, and Owen was actually very reasonable, I found. And you know, if commenters don't like that, well, too bad. I mean, you know, that most people who watch an internet debate actually don't actually understand the issues. I think most people, internet debating is more like a kind of blood sport, where people just want to see they just want to see anger and argument, and they don't actually understand the issues. And I understand that. There's one internet debate I love and I watch over and over again, because it gets very, very heated. It's the one between Demon Mama and Riley Grace Rochong, and I watch it over again because it's very, very heated, to the point where they literally have to end it because it becomes so aggressive. I've got absolutely no idea what they're talking about. No idea at all. But it's just hilarious. So that's probably why the commenters didn't like it, because most commenters don't actually watch discussions like this with people who disagree for that reason. And no, we didn't. Did we touch? I think we did actually mention something paranormal towards the end. Yeah. And David says, not sure what the James pipe thing is. Never commented on that. You didn't. Somebody else did. It was James's pipe. I mean, you must remember this. You must remember this. It was, David, this was like a big thing I did about 4 videos on this. Let's have a look. Here it is, you see. James opens the pipe. James confession live stream. James's pipe. Here it is. I did a whole load of videos on that. No, maybe you didn't. Maybe it wasn't you, but somebody commented on it, and they just said, "Look, oh, after all this was over," and they said, "Oh, Ben, you were invested in this being real, didn't you?" And I thought to myself, whoever said that didn't watch the videos, or they misrepresented me completely. David says here on 126, dismissing a claim versus not accepting a claim is slightly different, but they both lead to a lack of belief in the claim and not accepting that it's true. What's the specific difference, dismissing and not accepting? Was it one, maybe one, what you're saying is one is saying that is definitely false, and another is saying, I don't know if that's false or not, so I'm going to assume it's false. David says, why would I need to prove Roswell was a weather balloon in order to reject the claim of it being alien? I can simply say I don't know. All right. And similarly with the whole cheesecloth claim, that's to do with Helen Duncan claim, I don't have to speculate anything. I can just say I don't know until someone can demonstrate to me how it was done. Like a magic trick, I can just sit with that gap of knowledge. That is skepticism and being rational. I can handle saying I don't know. You're the one leaning towards a paranormal explanation. All right. Actually, I don't disagree with you on that. You don't need to prove that the Roswell weather balloon, you don't need to prove it was a weather balloon to reject the claim of it being alien. No. You can, as you say, have just a simple lack of belief. Maybe that's what you mean by the difference between dismissing a claim and not accepting a claim. I'm happy saying I don't know, but you say I'm leaning towards a paranormal explanation. All right, yeah, I am. But the reason I am doing that is, even though I do have a bias, and I'm working hard, and I have to work against that the way everyone does. The reason that is, it's maybe partly my bias, but it's also because of the fact that it's not just the fact that you can't prove it was a weather balloon. It was the fact that the weather balloon story was fabricated to explain away something else. That's what is suspicious about this. And so when you say, well, I don't need to prove the Roswell was a weather balloon to reject the claim of being alien. No, you don't. But it should make you feel concerned, the fact that the weather balloon was something is being hidden. Whatever it is being hidden. And so if something has been hidden, why wouldn't it be something extraterrestrial? We don't know what it is specifically. But then there comes on the other evidence to suggest it was extraterrestrial. And he says, if you can't work out all the ins and outs of a gold box scam, that doesn't mean it becomes more likely to be true. If you fail to give an alternative to it being a scam, it doesn't make the scam more likely to be real. Okay, now you mentioned the cheesecloth thing. That's very, very similar, actually, the cheesecloth thing. Because pardon me, I didn't address that. I don't need to prove it was cheesecloth. Why would I need to prove that this was cheesecloth to reject the claim that Helen was channeling spirits? You don't specifically, but as with the weather balloon situation, the cheesecloth was a false explanation posited by Harry Price. It was a false, completely a completely unsustainable explanation, which was very, very small lid over a big pot of boiling water that was only designed to hold for a short time, and very, very quick soon it came out. But that's the point. That's the point I'm making. And I don't know the ins and outs of a gold box stamp. Doesn't mean, yeah, and again, it doesn't mean it makes it more likely to be true. It's if you fail to give an alternative, it being a scam, it doesn't suddenly make the scam more likely to be real. Yeah, I agree. But in the in the same way, if you can't work out how a magic trick was performed, but you're reasonably sure it's not paranormal. Yeah, I mean, when I see a magician at work, David Copperfield or somebody, they can do some spectacular tricks, but it doesn't mean they're real. I know it doesn't mean they're real. And he says, but you're doing this with all your paranormal claims. No, you see, the thing is, with a stage magician, for example, the reason I think it's not real is because the stage magician essentially says this is an illusion. Darren Brown, Paul Daniels, all these stage magicians were really, really clever. I've seen one of them at work in live. There was one at my friend's birthday party, and it was Sophie the Porter's poet, actually, and he was brilliant. He was doing these tricks, pulling cards out of here and there and the other, making cards appear in his hands and stuff like that. And it was amazing. I mean, you could say, well, I know it's not the reason I'm pretty sure that's not paranormal is because he is an illusionist. The difference is when you're in a haunted house and things like that, and you're picking up EVPs and you're seeing specters, that's different. You see the difference there. It's a completely different context. Context is the issue here. So I do that that's why I have different ideas when it comes to paranormal claims. All right. Steve Mumbling says here on 126. You would look considerably. All right. Now, this is a reply to what I said on the last reply to comments videos. He hasn't put a timestamp in here, but it's basically to do with the Mark McCandlish's death. You know you'd look considerably less pathetic if you stopped squirming and just admit you made up the story initially about McCandless shooting himself in the back of the head twice. And when challenged on with the facts of McCandless's suicide, you claim you confused him with someone else who shot themselves in the back of their head twice. It's nonsense and you know it, just like most of your output. Apologising for confusing McCandless with someone else isn't the same as confusing McCandless with someone else who shot themselves in the back of the twice. Is it F? I'll ask you again, who did you confuse McCandless with? No name, complete fabrication for effect. A quick Google tells us there is no verified historical record of a prominent UFO researcher or whistleblower dying specifically from 2 self-inflicted gunshots in the back of the head. Now, this is incredible because what happened was Steve is replying to something I said in reply to comments 126 YouTube. He's replying to something which I said, which is a reply to his comment. Right? He's now replied to that and said, I mean, I could go and look it up, but I mean, I think you can go and look it up yourself. But from what I recall, and I do recall my own reply to him. He's now posted a comment. He's now posted like 7 or 8 sentence comment here, which is essentially exactly the same as the initial comment that I was replying to in 126. Slightly different wording, paraphrased, but it's the same comment. So Steve is essentially saying, he's essentially repeating what he said as if I had just not replied. So, I mean, if I give so now what will happen now is if I give a reply to Steve, addressing all the points he's made here, explaining how I can't remember who I was talking about. All right. Following, as I said, following an apology, following an explanation, following the explanation, I can't remember who I was talking about, and then making the point that Steve wants to continue doing this and wants to continue this subject, wants to keep this subject alive and active and keeps bumping it to the top of every comment section, despite my apology. Firstly, it was bad of me to do that because of Mark's family. Secondly, because I stuck in for someone else, and that I can. And thirdly, I can't remember who it was I was actually talking about. All right. And then Steve is saying, no, that's not what you really meant. As if how am I supposed to falsify that? And then Steve has now made a reply here, which doesn't address any of the points I made in my reply at all. He's just simply repeating what he said initially. I think at this point, I mean, I made this point with Patrick from Vetted when he kept going on and on about Mark Christopher Lee and the mistake he made. He made about 3 videos after Mark's apology, still bleating on about Mark's mistake. And I think Steve's doing the same thing here. So there's absolutely no point at all in replying to you, Steve. None. I've said all I need to say about it, and I'm now closing this particular issue. Alien Addict 126, who says here, that's a good name, Alien Addict. When discussing alleged German anti-gravity flying saucers such as the HPANWO, it's important to examine where these stories originate and who's making these claims. The HPANWO and Vril anti-gravity flying saucers are largely fabricated narratives. They appear to trace back to a group known as the Tempelhof Gesellschaft THG Society, particularly through publications such as The Time Machine 1988 and the Vril Project 1992 by Norbert Jürgen Radhofer and Ralph Ettel. There is no credible evidence to support the existence of such technology, and the claims surrounding it lack any substantive proof. I've explored this topic in detail on my channel, including analysis of the original publications of Chain Alien Addict. Well, let's have a look, because I quite like the name of your channel. Let's have a look at it. Yeah, let's have a look. Alien Addict. Oh, I'm already subscribed to them. I think I know this person. Here we go. Let's have a look. Oh, this looks cool. I'm already subscribed. There we are. Oh, nice. Excellent, brilliant. Well, Alien Addict. Okay, well, where these claims originate, it's interesting. You give some sources here, these books, and say it's a fabrication. Yet, if you look at Igor Witkowski and what he's written about it, and even the archaeological evidence that's at the site, which was investigated by Nick Cook, who is certainly not a woo-woo in any sense of the matter. He's way too skeptical, in my view. And what they discovered there, it's pretty clear that at the Wenceslas mine, some kind of strange experiment was going on. And I'll have to look up the rest of it. But I mean, it's in his book here, which I recommend this book here. This is, as it happens, I do have a copy of the book here, The Hunt for Zero Point. So the books you describe here are not the first, are not the only ones. Are they first? What's the publication date on this? This is later. This is 2002. So, but it doesn't just draw on the sources you mention yourself. It has other sources, including field research. So it's not just, it's not just sort of like the super duper proven maneuver as Stephen Cambion calls it, which is basically saying, well, the people's sources are each other. This is something else. So I think there's more to it than what you're saying here. But I'd love to look at your channel and find out more. Let me know if you ever have like discussions or speakers and hangouts and stuff. I'll come and join you. Well, nothing as it seems on 126 says here. A reply to your reply at 205. Let's have a look. Okay. This is 126. What we now call the British Isles was a peninsula on the western half of Europe. It was actually a piece of quite nice real estate. Actually, they found they've like Doggerland. That's right. In reply, the 160,000-year-old Dover Strait flood was a catastrophic mega flood, not the gradual sea rise around 10,500 that finally submerged Doggerland. Oh, right. This second massive breach, likely triggered by seismic activity or continued erosion, release a deluge from a proglacial lake in the North Sea, carving deep channels and completing the separation of Britain from Europe. Water surged up to 35 billion cubic feet per second, over 100 times the flow of the Mississippi River, confirming it as one of the Earth's largest known floods. Neanderthal were likely present at the time. All right, so I see. Okay, so because I thought Doggerland was like more recent than that, because 160,000 years to 10,500 years, because I thought it was at the end of the last ice age, basically, which is around 12,500 years ago, that the Doggerland was completely submerged. So, are you talking about two events here, or did one lead to another? Oh, Richard, I'll tell you what, Richard Wright knows a lot about this. 126, Steve Polish, who says here, he quotes me, there's a big long list that suggests they were trying to build something that was based on exotic propulsion systems, and it's the reason we don't know about it, and we haven't seen photos of it from the Allies, because the Allies, when they realized what was going on, were very keen to sequester the technology without making it public, which indeed they did, unquote. Okay, so we don't know about it, but the Allies got it, and you know about it, except it is merely the Germans trying to build something. This conflicts with C. There's the HPANWO anti-gravity spacecraft built by the Nazis in their secret laboratories. Very Indiana Jones, but you know it's true. There's so much evidence for it. Okay, I mean, there are some photographs that were taken by somebody at the Skoda works in Prague. It says, which is it, Ben? The Germans built an anti-gravity device and it's true, or the Germans were trying to build something? I think it was the first. I think they succeeded. And so if I made a mistake there between the two, or it could be that there were two separate projects. There may well have been two separate projects going on. You see, the thing they succeeded in building at the Skoda works. By the way, don't make jokes about those cars again. The thing they were building at the Skoda actually was slightly different to the one they were building at the Wenceslas mine. So both are true, actually, but they did succeed in building something. Now, I don't know specifically it was anti-gravity, but there was photographs of the object. And it is a bit Indiana Jones. If you remember, one of the Indiana Jones films, the Crystal Skull one, they actually do find is actually a real UFO, not a German one. That's a very underrated film, you know, really. I thought it was quite good. And now we have Steve Polish again. So that's your answer there. And Steve Polish says here, quote, this is me again, quote, I'm not going to let these people get away with pretending, which they are going to do. That's the reason I'm not replying to their comments on this particular video, because I can't. I've got no answer for them, and therefore I'm just trying to censor them and delete their comments and saying I'm not replying to them because I've no reply to them. What? And then Steve's, having been incredulous as to how Steve Mumbling was somehow capable of reading your mental landscape and castigating Apollo believers for blowing stuff out of proportion, that would seem to be you doing both, but with a broader brush and discernible on-screen emotion. Oh, is this saying that they're going to the reason I'm not replying to comments is because I can't? I'm not. I'm just. They'll say I'm just trying to censor them and delete their comments. I see, and I have no reply to them. Yeah, they'll indeed. We've already had this where people will say, well, some people are saying I blocked Over the Moon because basically he was just proving me wrong on everything, and I couldn't bear it anymore, so I blocked him. Which, if anyone who's watched my video where I block Over the Moon will know, that's absolutely not true. Speaking for me, I don't think you've ever done a piece on your Apollo hoax beliefs because you simply go along with the Apollo detectives and the sensationalism attached to their claims, as opposed to having a case you personally can't stand on your own research. I can happily list the lies of AD and have told, refuse to address. You align yourself with such liars, and how you address this isn't occupying my waking thoughts. Well, it is here, obviously, Steve. It wouldn't be right to expect you to deal with the details in a generic reply video, so I highly doubt anyone is begrudging you time to do a separate video. I think it's a great idea, not least because none of the ADs engage in debate. They just condemn us as sheeple and incapable of critical thought. Oh, really? Like Blue Earth thing? Like all the people Marcus has debated with? Like Bart Sobral debating Charlie Duke? What are you talking about? And again, you know, it's not my job to repeat points I've made before on other videos. I mean, when you thing is, I go to those particular videos which I've uploaded myself, and I don't see any comments from you underneath. I see no comments from you under the specific videos with specific points that we make in those actual videos. Why don't you do that? See, you try that, and I might reply to you. Just keep in mind we need findable and verifiable evidence, Ben. Having an opinion on an isolated in-mission imagery cannot be evidence of complex events occurring well before that imagery was made public. One skeptic with a degree above ground cannot possibly outspot several thousand PhDs at the coalface. Well, quite possibly they can, Steve, because those PhDs at the coalface have rent to pay, and they don't last long on the coalface if they don't do certain things, whereas we don't have that pressure on us. However, you know, I mean, the very fact that I've spent hours of this particular project debating with you and Over the Moon and David Smith and all the other skeptics should, you know, it's amazing you think that doesn't count for anything. And Steve Mumbling, you know, you somehow think that just doesn't count for anything, which is extraordinary. Boudica's Mound, Genesis Porridge, that's a good name. Ben, you are mad. Love to you. Love to you too, Genesis. I enjoyed that video, actually. Oh, at 126. Red Ibex says, I know you did not like him, but sorry about Nick Pope. Space. Yeah, it's sad. Damn, late on this one, said Red Ibex on 126. Yep. You know, well, you've got enough gold tinfoil hats by now, haven't you? And then Red Ibex, I think, is talking about the Chuck Norris thing, which is quite funny. Good old Chuck, yeah. There we go. I was tweeting one myself when he got. What's the first thing he said when he got to heaven? Get out of my chair. Yeah, Chuck Norris. Yep, the last of the great white male heroes. And Red Ibex says, "Glad you enjoyed the Chuck Norris facts." Yeah, they're hilarious. Red Ibex says, "Death once had a near Chuck Norris experience." Like that. That's a good one. Oh, we got timestamp now on 126 from Red Ibex. I mean, whether you see that to me is the dodgy part of it. it doesn't matter at the end of the day. But I mean, the very fact they told a lie like that, I suppose, is significant. But I don't know why they bothered to lie, because honestly, if just imagine that the lefties going doing pirouettes over this, we have the first ever president married to a trans woman. They love it. I mean, he gets so much support from the left. Oh yeah, that's right. And he says, very good point. Yeah, I mean, I don't know why Macron doesn't just come out and say it. My wife is a trans woman, because then he'd get a lot more support, and certainly a lot less criticism from the left if he did that. Red Ibex says, Merseyside Skeptics Society. I'd love to debate them all. Oh, well, they're actually they're quite open to they're quite reasonable people, yeah. And Red Eye, oh right, and then Red Ibex is replying to Only Amiga, whom I have blocked, so I won't be addressing those things. Yeah, it's weird I had to block Only Amiga. I blocked as well. It's really strange, actually. Like I said, the way that this guy I was talking to on Alt Tech, because I've already done the Alt Tech exclusive. God, he was nuts. He was an Apollo believer who was absolutely livid. And this is not unusual now, that the Apollo believers, they are the ones getting the Artemis derangement syndrome. I've had to block 2 of them just in the last couple of weeks. Yeah, and incredible. And so, yeah. So unfortunately, Only Amiga's gone and Over the Moon's gone. Red Ibex, would you like to see the Scottish verdict in all of the UK? Sorry, relating to what? And then Red Ibex said, actually, the Scots removed it in 2025. I don't know what you mean. Sorry, there's no reference here. 4608, right, timestamp from Red Ibex. There's a skeptic portal I've got. Red Ibex says, you're definitely a good writer, David. And Red David says, very funny. Why is that funny? I mean, but it wasn't. He says that wasn't meant to be funny. It was a compliment to Mr. Smith. Okay, right. And Mr. Smith says, thanks. My D in GCS English is finally paying off. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's funny. You know where my skeptic portals is, don't you? You know where my skeptic portal is, don't you? Red Ibex says, do you support the London Fortean Society, Ben? Yeah, I do whenever I can. I go along to their events. In fact, I've just been to one a couple of weeks ago, in which I didn't do a video, but I did a big written report. It's on HPANWO Voice. Oh, right. I think this is, here we go. Quite a few Odinists, and they're good guys. They're good people. They tend to be quite, shall we say, politically incorrect. Yeah, all right. Is that white nationalist Odinist types? Yes, they do tend to be of that. They do tend to have those beliefs. I say white nationalist is a bad word. I'd say white advocacy, because a lot of them are not actually nationalists. They're more interested in racial advocacy within existing nations, rather than establishing some kind of white ethno-state. In a sense, most of Europe is already a white ethno-state. That's their point. But yeah, I mean, contrary to popular beliefs, they're not evil, hateful people. Red Ibex says here on Alternative View to Outtakes. My goodness me, this is an old one. This is ages old. Remember that? I had to shoot it on my crappy old mobile phone camera because I lost the chip on my original one, the film chip. Is the USA simply a colony of Israel? No, it's not. But I do think that Israel seems to have a huge influence over policy in the US because of its enormous lobbying mission, which also affects my own country. Israel has done this more than any other country that I know of. I mean, there's no organization I can think of anywhere which is called conservative the Conservative Swiss Advocacy Organization or Labour Friends of Norway. I mean, for some reason, Israel is absolutely determined to go to other countries and try to mold their foreign policy to support them. And they go to enormous lengths to do this. So the US is not a colony of Israel, but it's very influenced by Israeli national interests. You can clearly see that. All right, so reply to comments 126. David Smith says, I gave your interview on 40 and Radio a listen. What? Did you? You put a question mark at the end of that. Where did you find it? It's disappeared. Could you let me know where it is? And he says, but again, you didn't cover much paranormal, little NWO stuff. And I noticed it was quite similar with your discussion with Owen, where you didn't have the info you needed at hand. It's a nice discussion, but it's like you're not really pushing your beliefs when you're in conversation with people who aren't believers. Just very limited pushback, more like an interview. And yes, you read out comments here, which is great, but it's not the same as being in real-time conversation or back and forth text, as so much gets said that it can be hard to remember and we can't correct each other. Firstly, where did you find my 40 and Radio interview? Because I don't know where that is. It's disappeared from. I mean, let's have a look, shall we? Or maybe I'll put another link in. Did I put another link into this? Let's have a look. There's all this stuff here, you know. Where is it? Oh, right. By the way, I've done interviews with Colin Snuggs as well, who sadly passed away. Let's see if I can find it using search. Okay, I'll try it on here. Hang on. I mean, I'm trying to. Oh, there we go. All right. 40 in Times, 40 in London, Tristan Swale. That's about us falling out. This is why we fell out, because Tristan was attacking me. Here we go. Right. Oh, here it is. Here it is. I'm not actually going to show you this, but I have got a copy of it here. Is this where you heard it?
This is 40 in Radio for the 1st of April 2013.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. Right. That's it. Yeah. That's it. I'd have to listen to it again to know actually what we're talking about here, because very limited pushback, more like an interview. So you are saying there's a difference between that and just reading out comments on here and you replying to the comments. Maybe that's true. Maybe that's true. But I mean, what about Bowler Hat Man? Surely you can't say that about Bowler Hat Man, can't you? Look. Bowler Hat Man. Where is this? Here we go. Oh, it's not there. All right. I know where it is. Okay, it's on here. It's on HPANWO Radio. You can't say that it should be. It should be on here. Hang on, where is it? No, hang on. Oh, God, where is it? Oh, bloody hell. Hang on. I'm trying to find it. Okay, somewhere there's an interview I did with Bowler Hat Man, and I don't know where it is. I'll find it later. But it was because I actually did a radio. For fuck's sake, where is it? Where's my interview with Bowler Hat Man? Oh, that annoys me, because I did a radio show specifically about it. All right, well, I think I'll find it for you, or you can find it. If you can find it, I did a really good interview with Bowler Hat Man, where I don't think you can apply that criticism to it. Genesis Porridge says on 126, Ben, you are mad, but we all love you. Oh, thanks very much. How am I doing for time? This is going to be a long one, guys. This is going to be a bloody long one, because I've the reason being it's been almost a month. Right, Mark Devlin, Oxford Tour 3. First says, wow, signal. Doe, says Professor Unwin-Most. Second, well done, Professor. Gold, silvery tinfoil hat load going to you. Same video, Esp. I'm impressed, thank you. What a fascinating place Oxford is. Great video. You're welcome, Esp. Thanks for watching. Same video, Genesis Porridge, who says, Ben, Both of yous are mad conspiracy peoples. Oh, that seems to be your standard reply. Steve Mumbling says, "I'll simplify it for you." All right. Admit you Oh, he's repeating. I'm not going to reply to that. I'm not replying to this, Steve, because you're just repeating your stuff about Mark McCandlish. It's actually concerning that you now are focusing on this singly on this issue, and you're trying to basically bootstrap this entire issue into becoming a current event and keep regurgitating it and refueling it all and all and all. It's a bit weird because you've got to ask yourself, well, why? Why do you want to keep coming back to this issue? I said this to Patrick on Vetted. Why do you keep going on about bloody Mark Christopher Lee and the mistake he made? So I'm not going to reply. I'm not answering that. I've said all I need to on that. Nothing it seems says Oxford is having at least been once Illuminati central is a bit difficult to argue against. Definitely, I mean it's where they will go to be trained. It's where they will go to be trained, and it's where they you got all this weird symbolism and stuff like that. And it's as recent archaeological discoveries of confirmed. The city's a lot older than we thought it was. We thought it was basically dates back to the early Middle Ages. We found Roman ruins there, and even earlier we found there's an ancient megalithic site there as well from the Neolithic. Yeah. Jimmy Wormholes, that's a good name. On Mark Devlin Oxford Tour 3. Mag Griffin sent talk and walk. It's all right. There's some very strange spelling and capitalization here. Great words of wisdom. It's sort of random capitalization in each word. Of wisdom, great stories, great information. Would be great to do the walk and have a few points with you and Mark. Goddess, gods, blesses, geezers. Oh, thanks, Jimmy Wormholes. And Jimmy, you're welcome to come along. There's another one on the 30th actually of this month. So please do come to that. So all details on Mark's website. Artemis 2 debrief first. Wow, Signal wins again. Wow. An original Dwarn boy says gold star. Gold tinfoil hat. And David Smith says, nah, you faked it. All right, so, this is Mark Devlin and Steve Mumbling. I suppose you're going to deny deleting my Bob Lazar comment, Ben, lol. And I says, yes, I'll check the spam folder, and if it's there, I'll liberate it. And indeed, I didn't delete it, Steve. I don't know where it is. And Red Ibex says, probably YouTube. Sometimes my comments post on different videos. That's very strange, Red. But, yeah, if it's here, Steve, I'll answer it. If it's here. Steve Mumbling here, who's finally changed the subject on Artemis 2 debrief, says here, so rather than admit you're a bunch of know-nothing half-wits, Artemis was faked, lol. Of course, the next Artemis missions will be faked, followed by a fake moon base, lol. And of course, a fake Chinese moon base, lol. Have you asked yourself why you need to live in this cloud of nonsense, Ben? Why are you so afraid of the real world? All right. I don't think it is possible. You see, you say a fake moon base. Well, you see, moon base, I never actually said there would be a fake moon base, whether it's American or Chinese, because they already exist. The secret space program has put them up. So I don't know what you mean there. I'm going to ignore your rhetoric. There we go. Neil Peel says here, the Artemis recovery dinghy, this is on the same video, the only dinghy where you will find legit doctors, scientists, and engineers. Plus, they didn't bring any passports. Artemis 2 debrief. Gary Robinson, hey, Gary. I wonder if they had any in-flight movies, such as Capricorn 1. I wouldn't be surprised. Apparently, there's some theory, there's some people claiming when they were out of radio contact behind the moon, and they were in radio silence, they played The Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd, which, funnily enough, takes 43 minutes to play. That's its run time, and that's the length of time they were in radio silence. So that's very appropriate. Yeah. Tessa 111 says on the same video, 10 days worth of adult diapers. Makes for a stinky spacecraft, says DJ. Yeah. I imagine it would, but I expect they have like scented bags to put them in, you know. But unfortunately, the toilet broke down, so they had no other choice. It was either that or basically do it in the corner, you know. Well, it'd float all over the place, which would be horrible. Taft Derek Baber on Artemis 2 says, waxing legs on lingerie night for the IDF. What? Waxing legs on lingerie night for the IDF. I don't know what you mean there. Now we have a thread. Sweeps Foxman says on Artemis 2 debrief, well, there are and will be problems with doing a show too early before discrepancies and controversies can come out for debate on Artemis 2's actuality. For me, one of the big problems is the delay factor, which is seen very obviously non-existent at many points in their conversations. Also, yes, so several people have noticed that there doesn't seem to be a natural delay, which you'd normally expect, like especially when they're far away from Earth, because they're so far away. The speed of light actually means that there is a few seconds delay. And you pointed out on your own video sweeps, I remember. Also, with the cameras covering so much, why was there no filming of them in the cockpit before the launch? Yeah, you pointed that out in your video as well, Sweeps, that it was all very cinematic. There were different shots of the outside of the craft. It was going from this angle to that angle to an angle underneath, looking up at the engines and stuff like that. It was all very, very Hollywood, but then the inside, no filming of the inside at all. How am I doing for time? 50. I'm going to change to a different hour in a minute. Yeah, that is odd. Yes, and you'd think, because we know they did have cameras inside the cockpit, inside the spacecraft, because they were activated them later. Yeah, lots of things will be coming out because technology, while advanced to counter any fakery, has advanced since the 60s. There is also new technology to see through fraudulent launches. So beware of early takes on Artemis 2. Ben gave a thumbs up for sticking your neck out there, Tar. You're welcome, Sweeps. And indeed, yeah, I mean, this is an interim report. And of course, there will be more research done into this and more information will come about. You can be certain of that. Thanks very much. Steve Polish says the delay is evidence due to Mark Carney's maple syrup conversation. Yes. He was talking to old Jezza, because this is the first Canadian to go beyond low Earth orbit. And so Mark Carney was very... Well, I think Mark Carney only cares about what affects the stock market, quite frankly. You know, Canada is now simply a stock market generation or degeneration machine for him. But he says here, including Carney's, I'll take that as a yes comment being heard twice. Once when he said it, and again as it arrives in the capsule. This also happened frequently on Apollo. All right. Well, maybe on that particular scene, Steve. I mean, indeed, this can happen even on Earth. As you know, I've even experienced this on my own videos where I'm actually hearing something at a different time to viewers. So that's not specifically suspicious, or indeed unsuspicious. Both CNN and Time showed coverage of the crew being strapped in by the White Room team, with later internal camera views showing just prior to liftoff. I saw those, Steve, but what Sweeps' point was that there were hardly any of those internal shots after they were actually sealed in the cockpit. But I did see the White Room team at work. It was very interesting, yes. The notion you can fraudulently launch something weighing several thousand tons is a fantasy by and for idiots. Well, if you've got a big enough rocket, Steve, you can launch anything. It depends on the size of the rocket. That's not a claim I've made. And I don't just if Sweeps made that. I mean, I don't agree with Sweeps on everything, because I know that he made his own reply. Actually, he made his own video about that, and I remember I disagreed with a few of the points he made as well. Oh, I got a thread here. Oh, blimey, here we go. There's a long post here by Steve Polish. Funny if so many NASA believers are called Steve, aren't they? Steve Mumbling, Steve Polish, Steve Avenue. Oh, God. Quote, a surrogate for the Orion spacecraft went to the moon. That's quote from me. And so it begins. Artemis 2 is just another fake. Yes. Jarrah is castigated primarily because he has maintained a position which says radiation made Apollo literally impossible. And the main reason it was fate. He then made it abundantly clear that his astrophysics degree meant that he was now qualified to enhance his Apollo opinion and predict his explanation of Chernobyl-level harm to the Orion crew. This was then modified to him not being aware of the changed flight plan, which then became a compliment that NASA had announced, a complaint that NASA had announced getting anything about launching into a magnetotail. Yeah, he changed his mind. He adjusted his theory. Isn't that what scientists are supposed to do, Steve? Let's just forget the thousands of published PhDs at the business end of research and testing at NASA. Let's just forget the third-party observation, independent geological analysis of Apollo rocks. We've addressed that. Jarrah himself has addressed that, Steve. Let's just skip Artemis 1's radiation testing, which Walsh said was classified, and the other total and utter lack of any pre-mission hoax evidence. Well, I don't think that's the case, because in terms of the Apollo rocks, I mean, they said ridiculous things like, oh, it must have been an Earth rock that flew up there from a meteorite impact, millions of years ago. And these things are incredibly rare, by the way, even rarer on the moon than the Earth because of the Earth's higher gravity. Yeah, the Apollo astronauts were so unlucky they happened to pick up one of these Earth rocks. Billions to one chance. Now, the radiation testing being classified, I mean, I can't remember the details on that, but I mean, is that not true? Okay, and listen, let's just side with Jarrah and the AD types generally and plant the seeds of another hoax on literally and only the notion that Jarrah can't possibly be wrong. Oh, what? Jarrah himself admitted he was wrong. What are you talking about? He's castigated on Artemis 2 because he alone decided to make a series of predictions and demands, like he's the sole arbiter of manned spaceflight authenticity, and now he says he needs to see the post-flight data. Two outcomes are now possible. He admits error and accepts radiation isn't prohibited for manned lunar missions, or he says the data is massaged. You don't need a double-headed coin to know which one is more likely. Well, you see, he castigate them because they make series and demands. Well, he made the predictions and demands, but then all he did was he did what every good scientist does. So why is he castigated for that? What's wrong with saying he needs to see post-flight data? Is that not published? Because if not, it might explain why Randy said that the Artemis 1 radiation dummy tests were classified. So what is the post-flight data? So I'm not exactly sure what your complaint is here. David Smith says, if he sees anything, he'll just ask for something else, constant goalpost shifting, which is hilarious because CT tried to suggest that's what skeptics do. David, I don't just suggest it. I give you examples. It happens all the time. Steve Polish says to David, I'm staggered at his casing response. It confirms that material evidence is literally displaced by incredulity and a willingness to reinterpret irrefutable fact into reciprocal meaning. Casing, in a one-to-one with Bart Sobral, explained where he got the idea from. All right, I'm not going through that again. But Ben, having previously ranted that we misrepresent facts, can't read his mind, runs with, quote, okay, so again, this doesn't make sense, and I suspect it's something that Casing may have made up just this as a hyperbole, unquote. Well, it's rambling about gibberish about Veterans Association, Ron Kovich, Tom Cruise, and me not asking the right questions. No, I gave you the example of Ron Kovich, who actually became an anti-war campaigner, and who did not make up strange, weird science fiction stories about the whole thing. If you watch Born on the 4th of July, which is Tom Cruise's first quote-unquote serious movie, where he wasn't just some meat-headed action figure, right? This was kind of like a very intellectual film he did. It describes the transformation of his views. I mean, he's injured in the war, and he's crippled by being a casualty in the war. But then he changes his whole opinion about the whole thing and becomes anti-war. But at no point did he say anything like, "Well, I know, I'll make up a story that Richard Nixon keeps fairies in the White House," or something like that. That was my point. And it's not rambling gibberish. It's a serious point. And you're not asking the right questions. No. Admissions straight from the horse's mouth on camera are now displaced by, I suspect, and may have, by one promoting and aligning himself with not only proven liars, but also liars he can make excuses because he can make excuses for it because it's probably just hyperbole. I don't know what you mean by that. Steve mumbling, you're wasting your time. Ben and the rest of the deceptives are, well, that's a bit better than defectives. The deceptives are determined not to believe the moon landings were real. If you took them to the moon and showed them the lunar module descent stages and lunar rovers on the lunar surface, They would say, you put those there yesterday. Well, Steve, if there's evidence that they were planted, yes. If they want to continue to make fools of themselves, just let them get on with it. Remember, Ben tells us he seriously believes the Queen of England was a shape-shifting lizard from outer space, and plenty of people have been to the moon, not just the Apollo missions. There's no reasoning with that level of stupidity. Well, yeah, I do think the Queen of England was a shape-shifting reptilian. Yes, not from outer space, but from another place. But is that relevant? Is that relevant to the moon landings? C. Polish does to Steve, mumbling. His casing and Allen responses proves he'd rather defend liars than acknowledge the material evidence. What? I'm discussing the material evidence with you. That's ridiculous. I think him being full on for the fiction faction. That's very witty. Being full on for the fiction faction is because his worldview, it's easier than dealing with reality where he's currently at in life, and it's his only security blanket, the nonconformist marginal minority gang. This latest offering borders on pathetic. Oh, I see. You're psychologizing me now, are you? Steve mumbling says to Steve Polish, I think he's well and truly crossed that border. Oh, that's the end of that thread. I think that's the end of an hour, and indeed it was slightly over, so cool, okay. But anyway, I've only put one timestamp on there, and it's for the 1 hour thing. So it still counts. Okay, so back with hour number 2 shortly. Right, hour number 2. Here we are. Now you'll be interested to know I've already checked TikTok. Because I thought I always forget that at the end, or I tend to, and I've checked it. There are no comments on TikTok. I haven't actually checked the stats on my latest video because I did put up a TikTok video this month. I've got a new one, but as you know, I've had concerns about the way TikTok works in terms of its. I think of it in terms of the stats. I've said before, but my last video was very suspicious indeed. Anyway, here we go. So we now have. There we are now. We now have. Oh, we've got another thread here. Steve Polish, who says here on Artemis 2 Debrief. Personally, I have no objections to woo-woos doing any research, Ben. That's just as well, isn't it? The issue is most of you jokers claim to be interested in the truth and the evidence, but only where it can be skewed to your position or be tweaked into misrepresentation. Bullshit. Bullshit. If I was that sort of person, I wouldn't even be speaking to you. It's also a fact that Apollo hoax believers have consistently ignored evidence, lied about mission events, and gone on camera to perpetuate the myth that they have done the research. The research proves Apollo missions with every category of evidence a court admits. Oh, bring it on. We should take this to court, shouldn't we? The same research also proves that for complex orchestrated events taking place before being presented to the public as a manned landing, including how NASA got 3 dozen astronauts to carry the can for a transient government and risk global shame for them and their families, there is literally zero evidence. Hang on, what? Including the same research also proves that for complex orchestrated events taking place before presented to the public as a manned landing, how NASA got 3 dozen astronauts to carry the can for a transient government and risk global shame. Well, they're not going to risk global shame. You see, you only get shamed by things that people tell you. Basically, the authorities tell you to feel shame for. I mean, there's a lot of psychological research into that. And I don't think you personally know Apollo research. If it shot up your Hershey Highway and held a fireworks party, oh, kinky. Whatever floats your boat, Steve. It doesn't suit me. David Smith says, if people research enough, they can literally become rocket scientists. Yeah, until they disappear in forests, like Monica Reza. But being incredulous is much easier when protecting one's preconceived beliefs on these things. Right. I, for one, believe Ben is likely just a hologram. But look at all the glitches in his videos. Obviously fake AI. He has been created to spread fear to the masses because we know how much they fear everything. There, now I don't have to use any heavy thinking. I can write Ben off as fake. Oh, look, I'm not fake, David. But then I would say that, wouldn't I? I think your point is, I think the point you're making with your use of sarcasm is that you're presenting something, and it's one, and there's no burden of proof, when in fact there is, as we've discussed. Michal says underneath to David, funny how we never see him from more than one angle. I believe his trip to Las Vegas was fake. Where is the released GPS data? God, my goodness, I'm being rumbled. Artemis too brief. Pie Pounder says, just loving the hoodie, Ben. Is this a sneak peek at the new merch? I should produce some merch, shouldn't I? I'm not sure I can, actually, because the problem is that my logo, the photo of my logo, I think is actually not in the public domain. I'll have to check. But yeah, it'd be cool, wouldn't it? Now the hoodie was because you'll be pleased to know, as you can tell by my attire, that the heating in my home has now been fixed. In fact, it was only off for a couple of days, and now, well, ironically, now it's fixed, the weather is so wonderful that we don't need it. Not that I'm complaining. See Polish says on Artemis 2 debrief. If Artemis derangement syndrome is planting hoax seeds a couple of days after its return, then you can wear the hat and like it, Ben. What? No, you people, it's your side of the debate that are going nuts. I've never had to block two of you in the same week. This kind of Sobral-level preemptive foreshadowing is already running rampant with BS about not seeing phone screens and the crew walkout. AI imagery and the usual half-wits making out their mission live streaming in crew flight positioning plan should have been used. Now, the whole thing about the pre-flight crew walkout, that is weird, and I don't quite understand it, actually, because it's not like that. Why would they need to fake that? Why would they need to? Because it's a very, very simple thing. Just tell, whatever they're going to do, go to the moon or go to Jupiter or go to low Earth orbit. Just get four people to walk out with spacesuits on. I mean, you don't need to fake that. But there is some weird stuff, like it's like the people with their phones taking pictures. You can see something else on them and stuff like that. It's very strange. Getting a 3,000-ton Saturn stack up and away without a single loss means you have no reason to try and fake landing 14 tons in 16G and no atmosphere. Similarly, with Artemis 2 at 2,600 tons, the launch is the hardest part, not LEO and lunar orbit. In terms of energy expenditure, yes. However, actually, the actual manned lunar transit has hazards which an atmospheric or low Earth orbit mission wouldn't have, relating to radiation, like we've said before. There is zero evidence the Van Allen belts are a prohibitive barrier to manned transits, just as there's zero evidence that astronauts fear going out on a limb to advance human knowledge and exploration because of the risks involved. Well, maybe they were afraid. I mean, I would be afraid in that situation. This doesn't mean I wouldn't do it. I mean, I think if you're going to be the kind of person who go on that kind of mission, you accept the risks. Just like when I became a hospital porter, I accepted, some of the hazards of being a hospital porter are actually ones that I never actually anticipated before I started in it. But, once I realized that these hazards existed, I continued. I didn't give up. I accepted those risks and I continued. And I suppose these people are the same. I mean, I don't know where they went. Of course, like I said, did they just go to low Earth orbit? Did they go to the moon with a secret space program escort? I don't know. But either way, I mean, there's whatever they're doing, it's never going to be 100% safe. Rockets, some rockets just blow up on the launch pad. They sometimes blow up just after launch, like the awful situation with the Challenger disaster. We have a thread now, and someone called Elliot Defoe. Oh, right. Speak of the convenient. I didn't see this beforehand, but the Challenger disaster. Hi, Ben. Concerning the Challenger quote-unquote disaster, you must have seen the videos exposing that prove all the astronauts are still alive and even working in the same or similar fields as they were working before the incident. Also, watching the reactions of the crowd watching, including family members, and many of them are actually smiling and laughing. I know some people say that people react differently, but it certainly looks like duping delight. Right. I've heard this theory. I've also seen that it's more than enough evidence to suggest it's not true. And Jarrah White's actually covered this in quite considerable detail. The reaction videos of the crowd, including the astronauts' family members, I don't want to watch those again, and I don't know why they were even put in the news. I thought I was sadistic. I think it was cruel, and I know that the BBC received a huge amount of complaints for that. I used to watch Points of View in those days, and that should never have been shown publicly, and it was put on TV. All right, now we have Only Amiga. Now, of course, I've blocked Only Amiga, so there's a thread here involving a conversation with Only Amiga. And indeed, Steve Polish is, funnily enough, this is where I agree with Steve Polish, because I can't read all this out because it involves discussions with Only Amiga and it won't make any sense. So apologies to everyone who got into a discussion with Only Amiga with comments that you think I might read out. There's no point in me doing that. Now, this is interesting, though. I do agree with Steve Polish about the challenge to disaster, but then he says that it ranks alongside. I've got to be careful what I say now. It ranks alongside the Shady Nook obscenity, right? Which says all the dead you-know-whos appeared at the choir at the Super Bowl, even though you decorate your odious opinions with cute little pictures. You should really stop. Now, firstly, I don't believe that the victims or the supposed victims of Shady Nook actually appeared at any Super Bowl. That's nonsense. This doesn't mean that Shady Nook was exactly as it was described. That was actually described in the official story. And then Elliot Defoe and Steve Polish are having an argument here, which and indeed somebody apparently has something in their avatar or has pictures. I don't know. I can't follow this thread, unfortunately, because it involves people who. I know Elliot Defoe and Steve Polish are having an argument here, which I won't read out. All right, that thread is essentially, unfortunately, nuked because of me blocking out Only Amiga. But again, and indeed, look, we have here Art's channel. I said actually here to Art's channel. It looks like I had to intervene here at this point, and this is why I blocked him, or one of the reasons I blocked him, because Art's channel says Artemis 2 looks like it was filmed on the Earth. Now I don't agree with that, but Only Amiga then actually was very, very rude to Art's channel, and I said keep a civil tongue in your head. Art's channel's point is it's totally reasonable. You're not making you NASA supporters look like the scientific and rational side of this debate. And Art's channel said thanks, Ben. And indeed, I blocked. I mean, it is actually a reasonable question. You did bring up a reasonable point, Art's channel. I don't agree with it, but you did bring up an actual point. And then Steve Polish says here, quotes Art's channel, says, I'm curious, what properties or observations are you referring to? I asked because the ADs are already pushing the notion that the mission could have done the long broadcasts of weightlessness by docking with the ISS, where a pod decked out of the Orion capsule interior was waiting for them. Right, well, you see, Steve Polish, I do believe that it's possible this was filmed in low Earth orbit. Filmed on Earth, I'm not so sure. But our channel, this idea that it may have been faked in some studio is one that should be addressed. Now, I believe there are actual explanations that make more sense than saying it was filmed on Earth. But there's no reason, there's no way that someone should be assaulted and abused the way Only Amiga did to Art's channel. And then I think now, Steve Polish, you're just repeating things you've said before, and Arch and then Art's channel says they had no shower, no proper toilet, body language, inconsistencies in the footage, green screen glitches. It looked like it was filmed on Earth. Okay, now they didn't have a shower, but it was only a 10-day mission. They did have a toilet, but it froze up. The outflow pipe froze up, and they couldn't use it. And the inconsistencies and green screen glitches are rather strange. Yeah, I admit that. This doesn't mean it was made on Earth, but it does beg the question of exactly what those glitches were for. Now, Steve says to Art, astronauts don't require showers. They use a variety of products which require no or minimal water and wet wipes. The capsule had both a toilet and a less technologically bad contingency, yes, which they had to resort to. The apparent green screen glitches, I would suggest, are merely digital signal dropouts. The body language is largely meaningless. Yeah. as the Apollo 11 press conference shows, it's a point of fixed focus for deniers because it fits their dishonest narrative. It completely ignores the demeanor and body language of on the USS Hornet. Okay, I'm not a big fan of body language and statement analysis, Steve. I really am not. Now, some people have made points about the behavior of the astronauts after mission, which goes beyond just the normal body language thing. It's comments about like truth's protective layers that Neil Armstrong made, stuff like that. But you see, statement analysis is a tool that one can use in research. But what I found is that the researchers who are most enthusiastic about statement analysis tend to be the same researchers who've abandoned all other forms of research. So statement analysis is very often used wrongly. It's used not as a tool of research, but as a substitute for all other methods. Well, and that's the reason I'm not a fan of statement analysis. And that's what's here. There we go. Clearer footage implies you don't consider any clarity. Such clarity is an indicator of earthbound fakery, but I've never seen clearer broadcasts from space, with quite long broadcasts of them being so obviously weightless. They probably were in space, and in my view. For me personally, the best evidence of authenticity is the lack of one cogent reason why it needs to be faked. Well, I disagree with you on that. You're entitled to your views, but your observations and the zero-G broadcasts are patently not remotely consummate with "looks like it was filmed on Earth" opinion. Yeah, well, at least you're being polite, Steve. And Art said, I think the moon landings are more about politics and US prestige, so there's a huge motivation to fake these missions, as it gives them more time to push it down the road. This mission had failed as a lot more people, I think it was filmed here on Earth. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. I simply do not see convincing evidence. Oh, I love it when you use the skeptics' lines against them. All right. Steve quotes Art and then says, it's an inept non sequitur, the inference being that faking it was a greater motivation than attempting it. Then, having acquired the prestige of success with one fake mission, it wasn't pushed off down the road. It was repeated another 6 times with one failure. So part of that motivation was apparently repeatedly risking global shame and humiliation. Not really, Steve. I mean, you could ask, well, maybe the fact that the Apollo program was cancelled in 1972 was the actual what you're talking about here. But there is a motive for faking it if you decide that attempting it is too dangerous. And indeed, during the 1960s in the Cold War, there was a lot of pressure on the United States to get back into the space race, with the first decade essentially being a Soviet hat trick. So yeah, there's plenty of evidence and plenty of means, motive, opportunity. Quite how you think Artemis was filmed on Earth, you don't explain. Here's the thing you the deniers conveniently forget. Oh, deniers! We're onto the deniers things now. It's like the H word deniers, and then you lump them in with the climate change deniers and the Apollo deniers. Yeah, very rational. Apollo sits on knowledge, verifiable facts, and independent confirmation. The Apollo conspiracy relies on faith, belief in personal opinion, speculation, and evidence exclusion. And then he quotes the extraordinary claims quotes. And the hoax side have yet to provide one crumb of extraordinary evidence for the orchestrated fakery which took place before any Apollo mission went public. They have yet to say why Apollo had to be faked. Well, that's not true on both counts. Feel free to define in reasonable and objective terms what evidence is missing for Apollo that's not already out there. And that's the end of that thread. Now we have Picnic at Hanging Rock. Watch party live stream. Well, this is an old one. Blimey. Good film. I remember that was a good film, though, wasn't it? And Joshua says, this guy's voice, though funny. I think you mean I sound funny. Do I? I don't know. Do I sound funny? Right about most things. Oh, that's a very, very good. That's an awfully good name. And on Artemis 2, Debrief said, a shark would have eaten them by now. It's the Pacific. I'm not sure what you mean there. Right about most things then said on the same video, they'd be fried to a crisp. Van Allenbelt in it. And I put a reply here. What is my reply here? That's what I thought. By the way, I had to delete one. Oh, right. Yeah. I said here, that's what I thought. But I said, by the way, I had to delete one of your other comments, the one about pets. It was not legal. Beware of Fed posting. Obviously, I knew you were joking, but YouTube has no sense of humor. Yeah, I did have to delete one of Right About Most Things comments because it was essentially Fed posting. It was breaking the law. Right, David Smith says on Artemis 2 Debrief, conjecture and ignorance will never lead you to the truth, Ben. I agree, and I don't let it. Steve Polish says here, I don't expect you to read out the JCMABIS quotes again. I think your regulars will know them already. Hang on a sec. I've seen this comment before. Who are you, Steve? Hang on. All right, I'm a bit concerned. Who is Steve Polish? Let's just have a look. Okay, let's have a look at his channel. Right, this is Steve Polish. Right, we've got a series of videos here. Happy to refute. Joined. Oh, you joined in 2019. Okay, you can't be all right. I was a bit worried there because I thought I've seen that comment before somewhere. So you've been here since you joined YouTube 2019. I thought you might be Over the Moon, who's come back, who's actually you're just another alter for Over the Moon, because I've blocked Over the Moon. If I suspected you were Over the Moon under a different identity, I'd block you. But anyway, let's have a look at this. What he says here. So if you decide, okay, I think your regulars will know them already. So just go to my response part if you decide you want to address the core of this post. JC, right, this is Jeremy Clarkson. So are you going to try and convince me then that man hasn't walked on the moon? Mark Sallin, yes, I'm going to convince you. Marcus at the BIS, I told you what I was told, that they'd landed on the moon. I believed it. I should say right here now, I still believe they've landed on the moon. He was later questioned by a BIS member for clarity. BIS member Marcus, you said, I do not doubt that man has landed on the moon. Is that correct? Marcus, there's more than enough evidence that I'm persuaded by. Right, yeah, that's true. Now, these two obviously are contradictory statements made many years apart, where Marcus seems to say two things. Yeah. And I said here, okay, this is quoting me. Okay, Steve, you're 100% wrong. There's no contradiction here. Okay, 10 years ago, Marcus was asked a simple question by Clarkson. Let's face it, he's not a very complex man, is he? He's actually quite blunt about things. I've spoken to Marcus about this. What Jeremy meant was, are you going to convince me that the Apollo missions, as history taught us, were fake? Okay, my response. This is Steve's response, because I think that was quite reasonable what I said there as an explanation. I think it's possible that Marcus watered down his position when he was with the BIS, which he didn't with Clarkson or something like that. So I think there's a context issue here with what Jeremy was talking about, yeah, which was Marcus possibly misunderstood with Jeremy Clarkson. Okay, Marcus tells Clarkson that radiation is the showstopper. Then Clarkson gets out Apollo photos, which Alan condemns as studio sets. He's denying Apollo. He also says NASA was sent an orbiter. Yeah, no, he's denying that these are the correct images of man's first venture to the moon. Yeah. If that's what you mean, and the Apollo mission is supposedly that. Yes, this does not mean that Marcus is saying that there were no actual missions ever to the moon. He also says NASA sent an orbiter to the moon, but he hasn't seen any Apollo hardware. At this point, LROC hadn't imaged, that's the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, hadn't imaged the landing sites from a lower orbit. Well, it produced pictures which look like that, but Jarrah White has covered that, how easy it would be to fake those. At the BIS, Alan qualifies his belief in Apollo by citing LROC imagery, which by then had imaged the landing sites. This is a contradiction ipso facto. Yeah, well, that is, I suppose, because if Marcus is saying that those are real lunar landing sites, then it is a contradiction. And well, I'd like to know what. I mean, I didn't notice that myself. It's been a long time since I watched the videos. I haven't rewatched them since you provided the link. But I did download one of them, actually. And Neil downloaded some and has actually shared them with me. I had a chance to watch them. Yeah, I mean, that's actually, if Marcus is saying, well, look, because the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter took these photos, that's proof that somebody went to the moon. Then, well, that's. I don't know why Marcus said that. Maybe he felt the pressure of being in that hostile audience and decided to compromise. I don't know. Make a fake make a fake compromise, which is disappointing, I must say, because those images from the lunar reconnaissance are specifically about Apollo, not just any lunar mission. And indeed, they appear to, where the footprints are and where the things are, they appear to support the Apollo story. Well, not quite, because the flags are still there, which is wrong. But there you go. Anyway, but to me, it's 100% wrong. You have to interpret what Clarkson asked and then reinterpret Alan's as meaning your position that somebody's been to the moon, possibly on a secret program, but not on Apollo. Yeah, that's kind of what I thought Marcus was talking about. Bonus contradictions. All right. Well, before we go on to the bonus contradictions, yeah, I mean, I haven't rewatched the video, but if Marcus actually did that, then I do wonder why. Jarrell White does a video on radiation where you comment that you hope the Artemis astronauts see it and take action. You clearly think Marcus Allen's position on radiation being a prohibitive barrier and reason to fake the moon landings has credence. But you also say, I'm convinced that people have been to the moon too, implying that you and Alan both have the same position, even though you're not talking about Apollo, and Alan is. Well, no, you see, I am convinced people have been at the moon, and there's no contradiction by what I said, because the secret space program, it's not a problem for the secret space program, because they have the ability to control gravity. Once you have the ability to control gravity, you can control radiation exposure very easily. You also reinterpret casing with an appeal to incredulity fallacy. His vagrant claim must be false, and he meant something else, because you personally don't think it's true. Yes, that's true. That is exactly my position, because it does sound outrageous. For reasons I've explained. Disappointing, Ben. This is hypocrisy and inept sophistry with bells and whistles. Well, I don't think it is. I think, apart from what you said about Marcus and the lunar reconnaissance imagery, I don't think there's any concern here. And, I'm not, if you feel disappointed, too bad. I'm not here to impress you, Steve. Artemis 2 debrief live stream, Steve Mumbling says, radiation for dummies, lol. He's such a dummy. He can't even spell dummies correctly, while White is wriggling and squirming, just like the rest of the fake moon landing halfwits. He should just admit he was bullshitting for the sake of bullshitting to bolster his ridiculous claims. Okay, now we have Steve mumbling. Okay, this involves Oni Omega, so again, apologies, guys. I'm not going to read this thread out because it involves Oni Omega, whom I've blocked. Apologies to everyone, every genuine person who did put a comment on there. All right. Okay. And I'll just have a quick read through this, see if there's anything worth talking about here. But yeah, if it replies to Oni Omega, I don't read out because he's blocked. So apologies, everyone. Steve Mumbling says here on Artemis 2 debrief, what sort of dipstick wears sunglasses in a darkened room? FFS. Probably someone who wants to look cool. Some people do it for fashion reasons. The Chinese are banned from the ISS. They had to build their own space station because of that. The Chang'e, yeah. Are they actually banned? I think they would have built their own space station anyway, the Chang'e, which is like the ISS. It's a lot smaller. It's a newer one. It'll probably be extended like the ISS was extended. But right now, the Chang'e, yeah, they had their own version of Butch and Sunny, actually, the Chinese recently. Yeah. If they knew the moon landings were fake, they would have exposed that as leverage to be allowed on the ISS. Really? Oh, you see, they'd have blackmailed. You let us on the ISS, and we'll tell everyone. Well, not really. I think these countries tend to have leverage against each other, as we've explained. The Soviet Union also had its own secrets, which the Americans were helping them keep. Yes. Of course they can't do that because they know it happened just as the history books tell us. He doesn't play the soundtrack of the astronaut outside the ISS with a socket wrench. The astronaut may be saying, I've come out here with the wrong size socket. If that is the case, he's just a typical fake moon landing clown, distorting and obfuscating fact to support his own ridiculous narrative. He doesn't leave a link to the source video as reference either. Does he, FFS? Now, the whole spanner and socket thing, I mean, I'm not actually convinced that that's actually... I actually think the ISS is real. And so I don't think there's any reason to fake images from the ISS, personally. I don't. And we have the Apollo detectives. Hello, guys. On Artemis 2 debrief live stream. And they say, I see Mumbling has returned from the grave, and he looks like it, judging by from his channel icon. Steve Polish says, whereas your channel icon shows one of your familiar lies, alleging that LAS, there's a photo reference, shows Aldrin with his pliss up against the upper rim of the LEM hatch, which you say is impossible, as there's a console protruding into the LEM's interior level with a latch top. Well, yeah, someone has recreated it, Steve. His pliss is actually up against that console, as the upper hatch rim is clearly seen above the outboard of that console, and features of the underside of the console are clearly visible between Aldrin's pliss and the hatch. Oh, right. Well, if you look at the mock-up in the museum that someone's done, that doesn't quite fit. And I said here on Artemis 2 live stream debrief, and he says, Reed Wiseman said, this is the first time we're going to send humans to the moon. BEJ, isn't that strange? Isn't that strange? Slip of the tongue? Oh, not really, Ben. It's just Bart using deceptive edits. Here's what he actually said. Hang on a sec. Hang on. I actually made this point, Steve. Why don't you? No. Why don't you be honest here? Come on, portray me honestly, Steve. I actually made the point that I actually made the point myself. That that we hadn't heard the entire quote, and we should actually listen to the entire quote. So no, I'm not going to read this out because I think you're misrepresenting me here, because you quote Reed Wiseman's entire quote when I myself said we needed to hear it, and now I think either you have forgotten or you're pretending that I never said that. So which is dishonest of you and disappointing. Right, and we have here. Is this? We have a thread here. Here we go. Steve Polish says, quote, in that ivory tower of private discussion where there's no news cameras, no microphones, these people who say they're enemies are not necessarily enemies. Yes. Who are these people and where are you getting this inside information on their private discussions, Ben? Oh, there's a long story, Steve, but basically, there's the Illuminati and the way they control these various governments. And I did actually provide a source, which is Anthony Sutton. And that's very, very interesting. And there's many, many others as well. There's G. Edward Griffin. I do reckon G. Edward Griffin, The Creature from Jekyll Island, is very good. And The Fearful Master, two very, very good books. And David said, the evidence of the conspiracy is how well they've kept it a secret, of course. It has to be conspiracy, because what else could it be? Well, that's a circular argument. That's a circular argument, David. And you're being sarcastic there, aren't you? This is their self-made paradox, says Stephen, replying. And it's proven by the Artemis 2 theories now rapidly popping up all over. Their modus operandi being, let's push the Artemis conspiracy line, so we need to look for anything and everything we can get hoax leverage on. The same old, same old. Start with the sensational clues and work backwards. Don't check everything, blah, 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 blah. Use a term like Artemis derangement syndrome to make all our critics look emotionally with one brush. Well, that's that. You're only quoting me there because I got in first with that particular term. When if we had started acting nuts, you would have used that against us. If we'd started behaving like your side are behaving, and I've had to block 2 of you in the last week. Agree with Jarrah. Wait for the data. Keep planting the hoax seeds anyway. Get round the evidence. Blah de blah. Okay, logic for the Apollo denial. Okay, you are starting to get pretty repetitive, Steve. So I'm going to have to skip a few of the things you say. Now, ISS Ratchet spanner clip again. Right, a few minutes research shows the clip to be fake. Blah de blah de blah. Steve, I mean, I don't know if you actually are listening to what I'm saying and you're watching these videos properly, but I've actually said several times that I believe the ISS is real. And so I never said that that was definitely fake imagery published by NASA. All right, so now we have the FX files. Oh, FX files. Now this is an old one. The 2012 Mayan calendar day is here, part 1 of 10. FX files. That's a really good one. That's a really good name. Hi Ben. These old videos make me feel quite nostalgic. Yeah, remembering the lead up to the 21st of December 2012 and the events that were being predicted at that time. Oh God, yes. FX files. Oh, I get a bit of the old Welsh heraeth at that time. Not least because I was in love with a wonderful woman and she was in love with me, and things like that. And I was happy. Oh God, But yeah, the Mayan calendar thing. It was such a big deal on the old David Icke forum. I remember it well. Quick question for you. Do you think we're going through something similar in 2026? There seems to be a lot of claims circulating on social media about a possible fake alien invasion or a sequence of events leading up to the end of the world. I do, actually. I mean, it's not the same as the Mayan calendar thing because there's no like traditional ancient calendar specifically talking about the year 2026. There are other calendars such as the Hindu calendar and the end of the Kali Yuga and things like that, but they're not on a precise date. But it's not the same as the Mayan calendar thing, no. But when it comes down to it, does seem to be something strange going on this year, with the talk about disclosure, scientists going missing, Three Eye Atlas, Steven Spielberg and his new movie, and well, yeah, again, are they going to pull some kind of Project Bluebeam thing? So yes. I personally call this time period as the 2012 effect because it feels like we've been here before. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Yeah, I mean, that's a good name for it, actually, FX Files. And I think possibly, 2016 was a big year. As I've said many times, I've actually got entire videos about I call it the 2016 effect, but it's similar to what you're saying here. I think it may have been the delayed 2012 effect, actually. P.S. says FX Files, I really miss Edge Media TV on Sky Channel 200. Yeah, oh God, yes. I remember Theo Chalmers' talk show on the Edge covering topics like this. I truly miss those days. Keep up the good work. Thanks, FX Files. It's nice to have a bloody comment like that. It really, really is, with all the stuff, with all repetitive, long, drawn out stuff I've been going on now. Let's have a look. Is Edge Media still? Is Edge Media still? Is there still? Surely there's some old YouTube videos of it. Let's have a look. There's got to be some old YouTube videos of this. Oh, so we can all have a little nostalgic. Oh, look, Edge Media, Robert Green, Anna Holly Gregg. Edge Media, oh, Robert Green. Ian, oh, bless him. There's Ian with Alex G. Oh, God. Oh, dear. Oh. There's lots of the Holly Gregg thing there, which actually was discredited in the end. Oh, there's probably some more of them out and about. I've got some DVDs from On the Edge from years ago somewhere. Lovely to meet you, FXS. FX Fast. Thank you very much for commenting. Steve Polish. All right. If this isn't original, I'm afraid I'm not going to read it out, Steve. Artemis 2 debrief live stream. Kate Rubins, ISS, September 2016. All right. This is the astronaut. All right. Humans are natural. All right. Now, what you're saying here is you're quoting one of these supposed revelations by the astronauts, which supposedly support the fact that they believe that Apollo never happened. When I specifically said, and I said in the video, that I didn't accept that, and I did say, well, maybe it's part of a longer, it's part of a longer conversation. There needs to be some context here. So I actually said that myself, and you haven't acknowledged that I have said that, or you didn't hear me say that. In which case, please go back and look again at what I said. So I'm actually not going to address this comment you said here. But you mentioned the petrified wood thing about that. And he said a secret unsourced video. Now, the petrified wood thing, that apparently was actually supposedly moon rock kept in the Netherlands. But anyway, I'm not carrying on. Here's another comment here. and you quote me, I wouldn't denounce Apollo astronauts on one person's assertions alone. Okay, why are you denouncing them on anyone's assertions on the side which keeps getting caught telling lies? Well, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. Perhaps you could finally say what evidence convinced you were convinced by, which isn't a personal opinion in mission imagery, but rather material evidence, sinister events predating mission being made public, what secret studio events, how they fooled mission control, NASA tracking stations, independent observatories like Jodrell Bank. Well, we know that are you referring to Apollo here? Because we know that Jodrell Bank apparently tracked the lunar module landing, but it's more accurate to say they tracked a spacecraft coming down. And I've made this point before. Do we know it was the Apollo LEM? It was a spacecraft landing on the moon. I've actually said that in this day and age, you can't actually just not send something to the. You can't just not send something to the moon with all the telescopes, which are used by so many people online and stuff like that. So I said that myself. Spaceman says here on Artemis 2 debrief, sad to hear of David Wilcox passing by suicide. I wonder what's going on with all these researchers dying lately. I know what you mean. It's sad. I mean, some people are actually saying that it wasn't suicide, and although I have actually said that I think it was, maybe I'm kind of like thinking again now. But yeah, it was very sad indeed. FX File says on the ISIS run first. Thanks, FX Files. This is my nice little non-woo-woo video. Richard said, we'll definitely be up for a pub crawl. Let me know a date. Right, let's sort it out. Let me just find like a good time, maybe later in the summer when the weather's August, possibly when the weather's most likely to be good. And we'll have a little meet-up, do the ISIS run together. Esp says on the ISIS run, lovely spot for a picnic. Is there a hydroelectric PP there? There is. Oh, right, yeah, let's have a look here. This is the Thames Path over this bridge here. Okay, that's just me showing you the map. Lovely spot. There is lots of places for a picnic you can go to. I need some more. Dragon juice. There is indeed a hydroelectric plant there. In fact, I made a video called Sanford Hydro, which was about the hydroelectric plant. I actually visited the hydroelectric plant on the River Thames, just near Sanford, just south of Oxford. And I made a video about it, which is on my channel, and it's called Sanford Hydro. And it was an interesting video because it's the first video I actually edited and uploaded away from home. I didn't just take it home and do it there. I did it all on my laptop from a place where I was actually on a residential job. So yeah, I'm checking out. Lab base is an Artemis 2 debrief. It took me some time to get around watching this, and sadly, it was much of the mental gymnastics I expected. Oh, God, I'm going to skim some of this. Blah-de, blah-de, blah, blah-de, blah. So many comments take issue, and blah, blah. All right, no, this is all rhetoric. I'm not reading that. The ISIS run. Cracking vid, Ben. Thanks, Gavin. Thanks, Gavin. The ISIS run said here, Tor Engen, hello Tor, how are you doing? Who says here, the ISIS run, well, it's similar to the Tom Waits run. There's a Tom Waits and there's a Norwegian word, which I won't try to pronounce, in Oslo, Norway. A pub-to-pub walk. I've not heard that anyone has completed it. Is it a bit like the World's End, that movie that I reviewed? Oh, got to get them. New St. Theo's. St. Theo's, it's less than a month till St. Theo's Day. I've got to get that sorted out. It was a reaction to the Greta Waltz run, since that one was only for women, but it had to end since most of the runners were drunk. Well, birds can't hold their beer. That's the thing, Never take a Foyd on a bloody alcohol binge. Unless she's a female hospital porter, then she can probably drink all the guys under the table. Yes. They have pub crawls, classic pub crawls almost everywhere in most cities. They do have them, and I'm not surprised they have them in Oslo. Yeah. Anyway, Rachel's on his book review, Starseed Energy. Hello, Starseed Energy. Thank you. Oh, this is an old one. This is the book review of the book Rachel's Eyes. Paola Harris told me about this in a masterclass, and Helen worked for her as a transcriber. Oh, right. Yeah, Paola is a beautiful Italian lady who is. I really like her because she is. I had an argument with her, and we managed to discuss the whole women in ufology thing without falling out, which is quite rare. And I think she's kind of come around to my way of thinking. She's toned down the feminism an awful lot. But yeah, Helen Luttrell, the author of Rachel's Eyes, was the mother of Rachel, and who wrote to discuss this amazing experience she had. The Y-Files has just covered this, Starseed Energy. Yeah, I do wonder what happened to. Sorry, she was the mother of, not Rachel. Rachel was the alien. The mother of Rachel's friend, who's Helen's daughter, who sadly passed away soon afterwards. She was very, very ill, and which has caused the, yeah. But Helen worked with Paola, yeah. But thanks, you're very, very welcome, Starseed Energy, and that's it was an amazing book, absolutely amazing. And then I put on a community notice saying I've uploaded a new video to TikTok, which I've just gone, as I said, I've gone and just checked. There's no comments on there. And Genesis Porridge said, why? That's an odd question. Why not? Why wouldn't I upload a video to TikTok? And then, Wow Signal says, dear Lord, whatever next, on the same notice. And then says, Ben, can you also upload it as a YouTube short? Edit, I won't use hickory dickory tickety tock or whatever. I've tried to upload shorts and I can't. I don't know why. Maybe you can't just do them from desktops. You have to use a phone. But why don't you just go and watch it on TikTok? Wow Signal. Genesis Porridge then says on the notice, the last one you did on Tickety had about 12 views. No, it didn't. It had 267 views, Genesis Porridge. And funny enough, it got those 267 views from October to November. And then it hasn't had a single one since, which makes very little sense, does it? Unless TikTok are messing around with my viewing figures. As I've said many times, I actually covered this, actually. I covered this on the channel. Mark Devlin Tour 3, Red Ibex says, thank you, Ben and Mark. I always love this tour. I will have to do it one day. Oh, please do come along, mate. Do come along. And then we have Gene Skinner interview. This is one of my most popular old tech videos. And Richie Horsley says here, I saw Gene Skinner do a demonstration of transfiguration at Philly Church about 20 years ago. She was incredible. What a great channel for spirit. Yeah, Richie, it was very interesting to talk to her. And as it turned out, that video I made was actually the last public address she ever gave before she herself transitioned, unfortunately. But I mean, I was so fascinated by it. I was contacted by Jason Harrington, another transfiguration medium, who invited me to a seance. He didn't charge me as well, to say thank you, and it was really remarkable. And in fact, if you want to see it, I didn't film the seance, but I have actually got a video where I review the seance, because it was a really remarkable experience. I think it's just called Jason Harrington or something. Can't remember what it's actually called. But yeah, Red Ibex says here on the Village Film Review, would you? I mean, you just say your comments are appearing on the wrong videos, and I don't know why I don't know exactly why it's appeared on this one, because it's not relevant. But you said here, would you support mediumship being taught in schools as a course option like GCSE? Yeah, I think I would. I don't think it should be compulsory, but certainly I think issues such as the paranormal and stuff like that and ufologies should be taught in mainstream education. In fact, UFOs already are now, which is very interesting, because Richard Dolan actually became a ufologist because he was actually doing a course in politics and history at Oxford, and he did a module on UFOs, which he thought, well, it's like a half, 2 weeks, and I'll go through this and I'll go back to my normal course. But those 2 weeks changed his life. So much so that he abandoned everything else he was doing to focus on this. So yeah, I would like to see it taught more in mainstream. Yeah, and even though, like I said, it is to a certain extent already taught, at least at sort of higher educational level. As for primary education, yeah, why not? I would support that. David Wilcock in Memorial. Now, Neil Peel has solved the mystery for you. Thank you very much. The film is called The Astral City, based upon a channel book of a doctor who died and found himself after death in the lower realms, but he manages to get to the upper astral levels. That's it. I've got to watch it. I haven't watched it yet, but it sounds very much like What Dreams May Come. The author actually is a famous medium. The book was written long ago, I think 1940 something, but the author is a very famous medium and writer on spiritual matters in Brazil. Yeah. Oh, Secret Space Disclosure Basis 2025 conference. Oh, there's one coming up in June, and I'm speaking. Yay! Yes, there is a new one. Thank you, Miles. And there's a timestamp here, which is probably my talk. Let's have a look.
Russia was involved in this too.
Oh yeah.
And there's the Ann-Nerber Society, which led by Heinrich Himmler, I believe, who were looking for like esoteric knowledge from the past.
Yeah. Would you have joined the Ann-Nerber Society if you had been German back in the 30s? Was it the woo-woo group of the time? It was. Now, what I would have been like if I was in Germany in the 1930s, I don't know. Because it's easy to say, well, Ben, you would have become a Nazi. The problem is, who wouldn't in those days, with all the public pressure being put on them, and all the fact, and there was all this mainstream media. It was basically it was completely mainstream. What would I have been like? Would I have been would I have been an anti-Nazi, which of course morally would be the right thing to do? I don't know. And would I have joined the Ann-Nerber? I don't know. That's the thing. I would have liked to think back then. I would have been somebody who would have said, look, I don't like what's being done here. I don't like the things that Mr. H is saying. I don't believe that the J words are evil people and they're to blame for everything and things like that. I hope I would have been the person who would have stood up and said, I don't approve of what's being done here. I've got J-word friends, and they're great people and things like this. And they're not behind all the evils in our society. I hope I'd have had the courage to do that. You see, because it's very easy to do if you're in a society which doesn't punish you for opinions, like I was going to say like ours, but of course nowadays they do punish you for your opinions. Yes, and so I'm already, I think, doing the right thing. But I mean, in Nazi Germany, I mean, they would have probably. They were quite open about putting you in camps and things like that for dangerous dissidents if you didn't agree with the Nazi philosophy. And I hope I'd have had the guts to say, well, that's what I'm going to do. As I hope I will do in my own society, should the government continue on this trend towards like dictatorship and start putting people like me in camps. They'd say, well, you either denounce HPANWO and everything you said, or you go in a camp. I'd say, well, put me in a bloody camp then. That's why I would be ashamed of myself if I didn't do that. So the answer is I don't know, Red Ibex. Neil says, the black bike guy behind you in the clip. All right, this is the little thing I showed you. I was joking about it being me. All right, okay. Stephen's role in the interview was that he had to watch the film, and we discussed it along with other accounts of the afterlife. Yeah. I think I do think I need to watch that film. I should have watched it actually before I did the interview, but I didn't know it was going to come up. David Wilcock in memoriam. Erasma Miaskovich, or Miaskovicis, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. Hi, Ben. This has been the best and most respectful coverage of David Wilcock's passing. I appreciate you giving some fair perspective. Very tragic and sad. You're very welcome, Erasma. Thank you very much. I'm glad you appreciate what I did. Okay, Steve Mumling says here I'm not going to reply to. This is out. That's out, Steve. This is out of order. You carry on like this, I'm going to block you. Okay. I don't agree with him either, or Corey Good. I don't think them credible. But now I'm actually deleting that comment. Now is not the time to be like this. All right. So there, please. I know you don't agree. You have your own opinions, but when people die, you have to present it in a sensitive way. This is what Andrew Johnson got completely messed up on, which is why I fell out with him. The Basic Materials Project, that's a good name, who says here on David Wilcock in memoriam, peace to the stars from the bottom, never giving up like I thought I would, is all I know, this is all I know, this is all I know. Okay, never giving up like I thought I would. It sounds like song lyrics to me. Okay. And the same user, the Basic Materials Project says, typos included, needs a bit of work. Sent it over for a remix. All right, well, good luck. I hope it marches up the charts. Maybe that's a song about David. I don't know. Same video, John P. Nolan. He may have made many things over the last few years to keep himself in. He may have made many things over the last few years to keep himself interesting. I think he did, John. I was not a fan of his, I'm afraid. and I found him very lacking in credulity. And I think since 2015, he really has not been very interesting to listen to. But I was very sad that he met this end. If he did end, he's another casualty of the mental health pandemic. And unless Kerry Cassidy's right and these other people are right, I don't know yet. It's too early to tell. I think more research needs to be done. More information will come out. Oxford Graffiti 16, Red Ibex first. Well done. Same video, Genesis Porridge. I made impossible triangles in stained glass. Ben, I'm mad like you. Laughter, hearts. All right. Well, that's quite something, isn't it? But well done, Genesis Porridge, for making impossible things in stained glass. Please put them up in a church window. The ISIS run. Bunnet Dan, that's a good name. Bunnet Dan says, well done, Ben. Thank you very much, Bunnet. I did actually complete the ISIS run, which is nice. And then we have here the FX Files, who says here on 16, why do people who believe in chemtrails say we're being poisoned by sprays in the sky, but still go outside to film and take photos like it's not an immediate danger? Doesn't that contradict their beliefs? They'd be exposing themselves too. It makes the whole thing feel more like fear-mongering than a consistent concern. But FX Files, what am I supposed to do? Just stay indoors all day? That would be even worse. I think the chemtrails, what's going on with chemtrails is something you can't really escape. So there's no point trying. And Genesis Porridge says it is fear-mongering. Steve Polish says, I think it's an evidence-free contrived conflation of folklore, geoengineering, and pseudoscience. Basically bollocks with a kernel of truth. Well, funnily enough, I don't believe it's bollocks, and I think there's more than a kernel of truth, Steve. There's an upcoming video next month because I'm going back to the geoengineering protest in London. And the trails are water vapor with combustion residues, blah-de-blah-de-blah. We've heard all this before. Sprang up in the 90s, bolstered by Agent Orange revelations, blah-de-blah. An illustration of a general lack of interest among conspiracy theorists in good evidence, the ignorance of science, blah-de-blah-de-blah. Not true, Steve. And I've actually addressed that in a video called actually, there's a video called I think it's called Heatwave Livestream, which I did a couple of years ago. And I know you're going to say, oh, he's telling me about another video now. Oh, dear, I've got to go and watch another video. And he just can't answer my question. He just refers me to another thing that he's done. Yes, Steve, I'm trying. Basically, if you try to waste my time, I will try to waste yours. And so that's if if you can't be bothered, just look at the stuff I've already published, right? And the reason I published it and I keep it on my channel is so that people can go and look at my positions on these things. It's not a long video. I think it's only about an hour. Go and watch it. I mean, and please, could you leave the comment under the actual video rather than on here, because it makes it simpler for me. Oxford Graffiti 16, the pareidolia theory. It's until the skeptics determine the cutoff point we can all agree on, it becomes a get out of jail free card. Yes, it is, exactly. And then that's quoting me. Then he says, it isn't a theory. It has a different dictionary definition, Ben, which isn't dependent on any agreed cutoff point. That's just a way of applying subjective bias to nonsense claims you see sensation in, rather than the well-understood human capacity to find order in observed natural phenomenon. But no. Steve, you could apply that just as much to the skeptic idea. In fact, at this SPI event I went to a couple of weeks ago, someone actually said, they showed people random patterns which eventually turned into like unrecognizable images. And the skeptics were you had to press a button when you could see an image you recognize. The skeptics were actually the last people to press the button, which didn't surprise me. So you have bias too as a skeptic. And so what you've just said, I could apply to you as well. The Sistine Chapel shows intelligent design in its hundreds of depictions of biblical events and characters. It also has a known history. And yeah. The thing is, like, I was going to say, well, what if there wasn't a known history? All right. What if there were no historical figures, historical documents explaining, Michelangelo came in, he painted it and stuff like that. Supposing it was an anonymous painting. So, I'll skip that bit because that's the point. I should have actually mentioned it in the video and I didn't. But we're working on the assumption that it has no attribution, all right? You can't kick tins of paint around and get the apostles and scenes from Genesis in over 300 different depictions in the same space. Yes, you can. You can if you, and there's actually a figure. If you do it, I think someone said it's to do with like the quantum return, you know, where you lock it, you put an apple in a sealed box and the apple breaks down and eventually it becomes mush, then it becomes gas and chemicals, and eventually they recombine. And it says if you leave it for a certain amount of time, it will recombine into an apple. There's a Netflix documentary about this. It'll eventually become an apple again. And indeed, the quantum physicists have worked out exactly how long it would take for that to happen. And I think it was 10 to the power of 10 raised to the power of 45. It's a huge number. 10 times 10 raised to the power of 45. That's basically a 10 with 45 zeros after it. Years. That's how long it would take, which is such a long time it's impossible to imagine. But I mean, I think it's similar. If you kick a can of paint around and get apostles and scenes from Genesis, you will get it. If you do this for enough times, if you do this like, if you do this every day for 10 to the power of 45 years, you will get images. You will get the exact thing you see on the Sistine Chapel. You will get that. And again, if you think that's incredulous, then where's the cutoff point then? At what point will you stop using that argument? Because if it's physically possible, it could happen. It could happen tomorrow. It could happen on your first day that you do it. Side issues. It's you that's the skeptic. We still have no idea what a clown's day off is. We still have no idea what a backslapper is. Apollo believers. Apollo is based on the facts. Okay. Right, a clown's day off. I've explained what the clown's day off fallacy is in my skeptic lectures. A backslapper is, and I've got a definition. I've told you what a backslapper is, for goodness sake. All right, this is the last time I'm going to entertain you on this, okay? Please listen to me, okay? And I'm not going to repeat myself, okay? And if you say after this you don't know what a backslapper is, I'm just going to ignore you and tell you so because, okay, a backslapper. What is a backslapper? A backslapper is somebody who, in the conspiracy sphere, who works by 3 rules. Rule 1, all people except the backslappers fall into 2 groups, shills and naive people who are tricked by shills. Rule 2, anything the backslappers don't believe in is a psyop, right? Rule 3, nothing in this world can ever get any better. The Illuminati have total power and can never be beaten. If anything happens that makes it look like the Illuminati are losing power, it is just a deeper and more devious act of the conspiracy that proves that their power is growing and they are winning even more. Only backslappers are clever enough to understand this and have the courage to face up to it. Okay, so there's your answer. I've answered both your points now. I've given you a reference for what the clown's day off fallacy is, which is go to my Sufon. The Sufon one is particularly good, actually. It's this one. I'll show it to you. I'm not going to give you a timestamp. You can like forward wind it or you use the Control F function. But it's actually this one here, which I did in 2022. Skeptic 2022 at Sufon. That's a particularly good one, I thought. The alien implants. This is Steve Polish here. David Wilcock in memorial. The alien implant exists. I've got one in my arm. Confirmed as extraterrestrial by. Okay. Okay, here we go. It's not been confirmed of extraterrestrial. I call it an alien implant, but it's where is it? Hang on. Oh, it looks like I don't actually have I've got an article about it. Okay, it's not confirmed as extraterrestrial, so maybe calling it an alien implant is actually inaccurate. But there you go, my implant. I've done an article about it here, which I put up in June 2015. So there you go. You can go and read that article. I'm not going to read it out now. You can go and read it. Disclosure Day 2026, a May surprise first, says DJ B2. Well done, DJ. How am I doing for time? I think I'm at the end of an hour. I'm slightly over, so yeah, we'll carry on with the 3rd hour in a minute. Yo! Hour number 3, which is actually not going to be very long. We're nearly at the end now. But so I've now got round to Disclosure Day, May 2026, a May surprise. And we have DJ B2 who says here, hi, Ben. I finally got round to watching Three-Body Problem. Interesting concept and the thematic ties to the current disappearances and expires of scientists. Yes, indeed. It'd be nice to do like a whole, maybe do an entire video on Three-Body Problem. As I said, I've watched the TV series and a part of the original series, and I've read two of the books. The second book was not very good, so I've not read the third one. But there you go. Yeah. Same video. DJ B2 talks about backslappers. Here we go. Backslappers. Are all backslappers on the wacky backy? Your backslapper voice implies so. Yeah. I'm calling BS on this, man. I suppose it does a bit. Yeah. It does sound a little bit. It does sound a bit like that. Yeah. Same video. Freya and Helen Black says those ears. Yes. Referring to Jared Isaacman. I'm sure he's had loads of jokes like this, looking for alien signals. use Jared Isaacman's ears. He took over from Bill Nelson, of course, who was grilled by James Fox at the NASA press conference. Same video, David Gregg, who says here, I was up to wash my face in the dew. Ha ha, Ben. Gutsy. Yes, that's a traditional May Day thing, isn't it? You wash your face in dew on May Day morning. Yeah, definitely. Same video, David Gregg. Ben, they are actors. They have been in films and dramas. Central casting, not real astrobots, have they? And then Michelle says, prove it. Yeah, I mean, are they? I've not seen them in any TV programs and things like that. I mean, I don't go along with the theory that I do not go along with the theory that the Challenger disaster astronauts are still alive. I don't think they are. I don't. Tessa1111 says on the same video, submarines deal with a phenomenon, acts like speedy torpedoes, but it never hits. They whoosh then disappear. Yeah, it's called the unidentified submerged objects, USOs. They are seen at sea, and they're picked up. Sometimes they make a noise which is picked up by submarine sonar, and indeed ships as well, and aircraft. And indeed, there's a guy called Vladimir Azhaja, who was a submarine officer in the Soviet Navy, who went on to become a top ufologist in Russia, because he actually encountered these things at sea when he was on board his submarine. In the Russian Navy, they're called kvak-kvak, which means the croakers, because they make a noise a bit like a croaking frog. And you know what? It's very, very similar to the Foo Fighters, because they believe there was some kind of American secret sonic weapon that they were using against the Soviet Navy. Now, do you want to bet that the US Navy were also picking up the same things? In fact, we know they were picking up the same things. And someone may have suggested it's a secret Soviet weapon. It's just like the Foo Fighters. Steve Bumbling says here on the same video, it's UFO Disclosure 2026, a May surprise. Don't look at the Epstein files, look at the UFO files, lol. UFO UAP does not equal alien spacecraft without tangible evidence. You'll be saying exactly the same thing when you're older than your delusional mate Steve Batshit. Never insult Steve Bassett in front of me. Never. And I must address this point. Firstly, you're wrong about the UFO UAP. It's just something if something is unknown, it doesn't equal alien spacecraft without tangible evidence. Yes. But there is evidence that these things are not man-made and not on this Earth. So what does that leave? They're obviously non-human construction, and there's no other species on planet Earth that actually has that ability. So they must come from somewhere not of this Earth. And you get this don't look at the Epstein files. It's a distraction, man. This is the backslapper thing. It's a distraction. It's a psyop, man. It's distracting you. It was invented so people would forget about the Epstein files, man. Well, that doesn't work, Steve. I've explained why these distraction things don't work. And it's also a bit annoying, these backslappers, because they keep saying things. They think everything is a distraction from everything else. Don't look at subject A. It's a distraction from subject B. Or I'll look at subject B. Someone else comes on. What are you doing looking at subject B? It's a distraction from subject C. Okay, I'll look at subject C then. And then someone else will suddenly burst out and catch you in the corner and say, what are you doing? Subject C is a distraction. It's a distraction from subject A. See if you come full circle. Everything's a distraction from everything else. It's the backslapper mantra. Same video, nothing as it seems. Ben, the Golden Globe on the desk of the president during the Artemis II crew visit to the Oval Office Is a gold-plated model of the moon a gift from the NASA administrator? I see. So Jared Isaacman gave him this gold model of the moon. I see. That's interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. Oh, that crafty nihilist. Hello, crafty nihilist. How are you? You were on the phone propped up, and the phone fell when you said, "Oh, right, this is interesting." There's a timestamp. So the crafties were watching it on the phone. It was propped up, and the phone fell over when I said this. Tessie went, "Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god!" You know, there's other people. Their story Musgrave.
I can see it now.
There's Gordon Cooper, these astronauts from long ago. There's.
I can see it now. I can see it now.
He was just watching. Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! The phone fell over. All right, Ravenhill. This is on the same video now. Ravenhill is back. Ravenhill, the Inquisitor, 1968. He's called now. I've been following the UFO news for years. It's amazing to see how much interest there is now. But my personal feelings are I could never tolerate being in America because of not being keen on the melting pot society there. And even though England has changed drastically because of the high levels of immigration, I still prefer to remain here among my family and fellow English kin. Better the devil you know, as is said. I know what you mean, although I actually visited the US. I've been, like I say, to conferences over there, and I think I had a really, really good time. But of course, they have like the problems to do with immigration and stuff like we do as well here. And as I've said many times, it's actually being done deliberately. It's actually the government who are to blame for it. And Michel says on these, I'm not racist. This is a quote. I'm not racist. I just like racist things. Michel, that's not fair, right? That's not fair. Just to call someone a racist is accuse them of being hateful and hating people because of their race. Now, there's nothing in Ravenhill's statement here that suggests he does that. He was concerned about social problem caused by high levels of immigration. This, I said, is something the government are doing. It's not necessarily the fault of the people who are coming here. And so, as always, though, you get this label, don't you? As whenever this happens, which I think is very unfair. And Michel says on the same video, oh no, they exchange looks. Perhaps because they understand it's a lot of nonsense. Like when Uncle Nugget gets drunk at Christmas dinner and starts recounting how he fought off 10 muggers without spilling his pint. Oh, my goodness me. Michel, I didn't realize you were eavesdropping on my Christmas parties. But, yeah, I mean, there was a knowing looks exchange between them. And it's hard to know what it actually meant. It's probably something that only they would know. As I said, these people know each other very well. They have been training together for years. They're familiar with each other's. They probably don't need to exchange many words, and it's possibly looking at each other and thinking we were talking about this before. And maybe it's because they don't think it's credible. I don't know. It's hard to know what they were thinking, but they did react. They reacted as a group, or at least Chrissy and Reed did, when Trump brought up the subject of UFOs. He did. Oxford Canal, Red Ibex. This is. Red Ibex is mentioning how I, shouty hoodie man, and how I stood up to him. Yeah, thanks, mate. Thanks. I wasn't going to let him push me around and start because he was being an arsehole, and I challenged him. And I did it politely and calmly, but I put him in his place, and I said, "No, you're not going to tell me where I can and can't record." Red Ibex, would you support reopening the canals to aid traffic congestion? Absolutely, I'd love to. I'd love to live in a society, in a world where any non-urgent journey, you don't go by car and try to get there quickest. You go by the slowest way possible. So if you want to get someone, there's no rush to get there, right? You deliberately go by the slowest way possible. So you get a donkey and you travel on a donkey or something, or you go on a canal boat. Yeah, absolutely, that's a great idea. Okay, so now we have a I'll just share this because I think there's a visual clue here, but here we go. Red Ibex says this. Well, I'm a lesser, talking to me like I was like a lesser person. I was like oh, him, yeah, right, yeah. And Red Ibex says, he looked like the man who was abusing you. I think you thought so, looking at by the old face at that moment. I don't think it was the same chap. I mean, he was kind of singing much. I don't think it was. But yeah, he obviously wasn't abusing me there, and I wasn't thinking that at the time. I would have said so on camera if it was him. It was, no, I don't think so. It looked a bit like him, though, didn't it? Yeah. Well, he had the same kind of hoodie, but it wasn't the same man. Red Ibex says, wow, that Gina story is awful. The New Age is fraudulent. Are they all two-faced? No, not all of them, but a lot of them are. And what annoys me is the self-delusion. They're all this love, they all love and light and everything like that. And when in fact they have their own problems, they are dysfunctional on one level. And a lot of these New Age communities are actually pretty horrible places. And Red Eye says, poor Hugo Rune. I hope he's okay. Yeah, me too. I haven't heard from him for ages. He sent you a strange email at some point. He did indeed, which was, I haven't repeated it because it's private conversation, but it made me wonder what sort of state of mind he's in. He sounds like he's in a bad way in terms of his state of mind, to be honest. Yeah, and it's very upsetting because he's such a character, and I've always liked his contribution. Red Ibex. Is Philip Pullman's Dark Materials a contemporary classic? But what of the man? Yeah, I've actually mentioned this. Now, Philip Pullman's Dark Materials is a contemporary classic. It's an excellent trilogy of books I love. The man himself, though, I really dislike. He's a very, very narrow-minded and very opinionated tosser, actually. He said that he's very dismissive and derogatory towards his contemporary, C.S. Lewis, or I thought might have been his inspiration, but he wasn't. He hates being associated with like the Oxford fantasy set, Lewis Carroll, J.R. Tolkien, and especially C.S. Lewis. He once said, "Oh, C.S. Lewis, I'd like to dig him up and throw stones at his coffin." And I thought, that's weird. Oh, he's just an idiot who wrote children's books. I mean, just complete and total dismissal and a complete rejection of a really, really deep thinking and intelligent man. Same video, Red Ibex. Was Goose Green Close named after the Falklands War battle? No. There's a place there called Goose Green, there was a small settlement in the Falklands called Goose Green. There was a famous battle to liberate it from the occupying Argentines in 1982. R.I.P. Barry. Thanks. Yeah. Please tell us more about the old guy in the porn magazines. Oh God, no! I can't even remember his name now. I can see him. He was this oldish guy about Barry's age. So I doubt if he's still alive. He'd be in his 80s now if he's still alive. He's probably a little bit older than Barry. And he had this house which was a bit of a mess. And Barry's house lived in this. Barry was his lodger, and he had by the toilet there was loads of porn mags. I remember. His house was a bit of a mess, but Barry enjoyed it there. He had fun there, and we had some good times. We used to go to the Plough and have a laugh there. And now we have a timestamp here on Secret Space Disclosure Basis 2025 conference. It's a timestamp here from. Here we go. And that is a symbol of racism. Oh right, yeah. I was saying it's a racist to have the flag. Yeah. And Red Ibex says lol. Yeah. And okay, this is what I'm doing now. I don't need to click the timestamp. It's where I have to take. This is in the same video, Secret Space Disclosure Basis 2025 conference. It was my unfortunate duty at that point to be very critical of Gemma Cooper, and indeed this is where she gives her woman in a man's world. Poor Maria Wheatley, isn't she suffering? And I had to take her to task on that. And Red Ibex says misogyny in ufology is a myth. Yes, it is. Now, funnily, this has just burst up again because Kelly Chase has had a bit of a. I can't remember. I mean, I actually did say to her, I'm sorry she had this experience, because she posted saying that Jay King, her business partner and collaborator, had apparently done some naughty things. He'd been communicating with an abductee who they were counseling, and they'd ended up having some kind of affair, and he'd sent her revealing pictures and stuff like that. And she had said, this is horrible. I don't like it. I survived I had a sexual assault once, and no one was punished for it. And so I'm breaking contact with him. And she published this on Twitter, and there has been a bit of a Twitter storm as a result, where this kind of thing has been regurgitated again. I haven't been following. It's not quite as bad as all that. It hasn't quite got to the point where there's like the culture war has broken out in full force into a new battle. And I like Kelly. Kelly Chase is someone I admire, actually, and respect. And I actually posted underneath, I'm very sorry that happened. You know, assume, like I said, maybe I shouldn't have tweeted that because, you know, we've only heard her side of the story so far. Jay Anderson put a post up saying, it's not me. Because he's another Jay. He's a different Jay. Yeah. But yeah, we'll have to see what comes of that. I haven't commented on it yet properly. Red Ibex says on the same video, do you support repealing the 1939? Now, I can't actually say this word, Red Ibex. It's a disease begins with C, and I'm not talking about the virus. I'm talking about another disease that begins with C, which is one of the biggest killers in our society. Do you support repealing the 1939 C Word Act? Yes, I do, because I believe it was put in place to actually prevent certain treatments being delivered to the public. To the public, yeah. And I've said a lot about that. You can, unfortunately, I can't comment on YouTube significantly about this subject, but yeah, it's basically there's an industry which actually is making money off people dying unnecessarily. Same video, Red Ibex, and there's a timestamp which I don't need to click because I've explained what it's all about. Gemma and Maria must fully recant feminism or they aren't really awake. I'd have to say yes. I mean, if you believe in feminism and you say you're awake, then you're not awake. I mean, you're not. It's that simple. I've covered this many times, because feminism is it's just so much a control. It's so much a COINTELPRO kind of piece of mind control, a piece of cultural manipulation and psychological manipulation. Now, as far as I'm concerned, Maria doesn't believe in it. I mean, this is Gemma who was saying this, not Maria. And Maria has not really said anything that indicates that she feels that way. I don't know what her opinion is actually about this issue. But I mean, I'm hoping that Gemma will actually realize this. I know I believe Paola Harris has actually come to this awareness, because she hasn't actually said so, but she doesn't make comments on this sort of thing anymore, which indicates maybe she's come around. Right, Alien Addict on UFO Disclosure 2026 AMA surprise. Who says here, a vast majority of people need to lower their expectations about what will actually be revealed in these documents. I'm pretty sure they will likely be heavily redacted. You're probably right, Alien Addict. And we don't know yet, but I mean, Angry Astronaut has already said that Trump has kind of walked back a lot because he's put so many sort of like verbal disclaimers in his announcement. I think that may be true. What are people in the UFO community really expecting to come out of this? It will probably be stories we've already heard before, similar to the UFO films released in the UK. Does that count as disclosure? No. If that's true, no. It seems like many are expecting revelations about crash retrievals or definitive proof that extraterrestrials exist. But what kind of evidence is realistically going to be presented, and not just hearsay? I'm not saying this will be a complete nothing burger, but there's clearly too much hype about being built around it. Why do we suddenly think the US government is going to tell us the full truth? Yeah, I mean, it's a while ago I would have said, that because I believe that like the Illuminati had basically lost power in the US, I would have said yes. But really, based on Trump's recent behavior and his policy in other areas, it's pretty clear he's actually been compromised and he's now being controlled. So why is he now going to do disclosure genuinely after that? And the answer is, I don't think so. I mean, there's a part of me that thinks, yeah, I mean, as you see in the video, there's a part of me that does think that maybe something will come out of this, maybe catastrophic disclosure. That's why I called it a May surprise. That's the title. But really, it's a bit of a forlorn hope, if I'm honest with myself. It is great that the conversation around UFOs and extraterrestrial life is becoming more open. However, a large portion of the community is taking this too seriously. And no disrespect to you, Ben, but you said in one of your disclosure videos early in 2025 that we would have disclosure by December 2025. And that didn't happen. Yeah, I remember. It's all right. It's not disrespectful to remind me of that because I own it. Once again, expectations didn't match reality. 2026 will not be the year of disclosure, in my opinion. We'll see. We will see, Alien Addict. But, you know, I can't disagree really with anything you said here, which is sad. I'm just hoping that you're wrong and I'm wrong. Then there's something will come out of left field. I actually said this to Angry Astronaut. No, who was it? Yeah, I did say this to Angry Astronaut after he did this rant about. He did this rant about basically making a lot of the points that you've just made in a video called. Where is it? It was a video called Trump backpedals on the UFO promise, and here's why. And
Labour really cares about building affordable.
Fuck off! I'm not interested in anything you have to say, and you would have to be
across the country.
Off. Yeah, and I said here that's ontological shock, right? Because he talks about how the government think we can't take the truth. And I said that's ontological shock. The thing is, it's very patronizing of the government. They know, but they don't panic, but they think we will. They clearly have a very low opinion of us. Oh, well, it just opens the door wider for catastrophic D. I got 2 likes from that. And that's the way I see it. I think maybe catastrophic disclosure is now the only way forward. And I think that's what we're going to get. It's that or nothing. And if it's a choice between that or nothing, I'll choose that. I'll take catastrophic disclosure. Right, Secret Space Disclosure Basis 2025 Conference, Red Ibex. I'm surprised I did not see the Emlyn-Jones and Wolford talk on this. A dynamic duo. Hang on, didn't you? No, you didn't see it in the video, Red Ibex, but it is available. It is available. I'll show it to you. There we are. It's available. Here we are. Where is it? Basis 26, 2019. Oh, blimey, it's a long list to go through, but it's here somewhere. 2023, 2022. Here we go. It's got to be here somewhere. It's got to be here somewhere. I can't think of it better. Because here we go. Where is it? No. Here we go. Here it is. Hang on, you can see it. Yeah, you can. Basis 2025 videos. The recording. Here we go. Booked as Dr. Corlon Woollyford and Dr. Ben Emlyn-Jones. Yes. There it is. It's not on my upload, but it is on. Miles has done his own official recording of it, so you can go and watch it there. And Red Ibex says, "Thank you, Miles, for this marvelous event." Thank you, Miles, indeed. Yes, good old Miles. I love him to death. I really do. Oxford Graffiti 15. All right, so now here we have a timestamp. Did you take any? What's this?
Shops and stuff there. Oh, LSD can get as high as a kite as well here.
All right, this is from the last. This is from this particular the last one there. Yeah, I said it's called LSD, and I thought that was funny. It's called LSD, and I said, "Did you take any?" No, I mean they didn't even have any. Even if it had been real LSD thing, they wouldn't have had it there. All right, now we have same video here. Key unsolved Oxford murder cases. All right, this is me talking about the the strange man, the unknown man found at the Botley flyover. Janet Brown, 1995, 51-year-old research nurse found murdered in her home near Radnage in April 1905, having been handcuffed and beaten. Despite a £20,000 reward, a Crime Watch appeal, and new DNA evidence in 2015, a killer has never been caught. Dr. Michael Meegan. Oh, right, I remember this one. Dr. Michael Meegan, 1994. I remember this well. A 33-year-old forensic scientist at Oxford University was shot dead through his kitchen window in Monk's Close, Blackbird Leys on December the 10th, 1994. Yes. He was literally doing the washing up his kitchen window. Someone shot him through the window. He tried to call 999. He actually did he did dial the number. Unfortunately, he passed away before he could actually speak to the operator. Brian Francis, 2002, 51-year-old, beaten to death in his Blackbird Leys flat, February 2002. Naseen Akhtar, 1995, 29-year-old mother of 4 strangled at her home in Cobden Crescent, Oxford, March the 30th, 1995. Harun Jama, 2018, found at Friars Wharf. This was noted as one of 4 cases from the 2010s where no one was charged by 2019. Yeah, you know, I expect, Red Ibex, you go to any town or any city, you will actually find you'll find a similar list of unsolved cases. Sadly, the police are too busy arresting people for rude tweets and things like that. They can't be bothered with mere murders nowadays. Oxford Greedy 15, that was nice of the woman to offer you her club card. It was, yes. That was an interesting moment, that was. Yeah. Or was she? Did she just want the points? I don't know, you see. I've never actually had a club card, so I don't really know how they work. Okay, now let's have a look here. There we go. What's this?
On Balfour Road and
all right, yes, the famous Bullnose Morris, which was a local haunt which Barry and I used to go to, closed in 2020. Another blow for the estate. Yeah, Barry's old stomping ground. R.I.P. Thank you very much. Yeah, I miss Barry terribly. But yes, that's a big loss to Blackbird Leys in my view. And they shut that pub down. Oxford Graffiti 15. Oh, what's this? Finally, the UFO's been removed. What's this?
sorry. Well, finally, it's over.
Yeah, remember they were working on the drain. I've covered it in the last few videos. They were working on this drain under the field. Same video. Oh, this is I think this is the turfs thing. It says "fuck you, I'm happy." Oxford for trans rights. Oh right, yeah. That's in Oxford City. Oh, that was actually Lance Corporal. He found me those images. Yes, Oxford for trans rights. Yeah. 5558. What's this? I took this photo ages ago. And oh, this is funny. This is funny. It's this here, and Red says here. Looks like a bit like those cigarette packet warnings. It does a bit, doesn't it? It's the same sort of shape. Oxford Graffiti 15, he says, thank you, Red Ibex says, thank you for doing these, Ben. Recording this graffiti, it's disgraceful how little credit you get for it, and you get no thanks from the artists. Well, some of them have been quite nice about it. They're very often a bit taciturn. I think maybe some of them don't approve, but I get some of them actually contact me and tell me where they've done a recent mural, so I can go and record it. Right, UFO Disclosure 2026, a Mesa Prize. What's your position on Matt Radley of Oxford University? Is that tosser who wears fake tits in the lectures? Matt Radley. Oh God, I think I know who you're talking about here. Yeah, this is right. Yeah. Right, St Hilda's College, which is a women-only college, which you're not allowed men-only colleges in this days. That's sexist. But women have their only thing here. Let's have a look in the news. Yeah. Why is Oxford indulging a lecturer who wears his plastic breasts at work? Yeah. He literally turns up at lectures and he's wearing these fake tits. No, it's not like he's not trans or anything. He just has these like fake tits, these joke tits. Maybe because he's at St Hilda's. And there's a lot of very I mean, like many women-only institutions, there's a lot of feminism like poured down people's throats, which leads them to hate white men. And maybe he's I don't know, maybe he's making a satirical statement. I don't know, but I think it's just stupid. He shouldn't do that. Right, Steve Mumling says here on May Surprise, this may give you a wake-up call. Oh, what is it, Steve? What is this? Let's have a look.
Even as a chef, my diet isn't always this balanced. But did you know, most of us aren't getting enough omega-3 in our diets. So I top up with 7Cs, the UK's #1 omega-3 brand. It helps support...
I hope this is the only ad on here. Come on, hurry up. How long would it take? Come on. All right.
Humanity crossed a milestone.
Okay, this is 22 minutes long. I think this is an AI figure.
In complete silence. It was the kind of achievement that should have triggered grand celebrations, fireworks in every city, front-page magazine features, and global recognition.
Get on with it.
Yet, when you truly stop and examine what this milestone represents, it becomes something else entirely, a profound reason for existential dread. Voyager 1, the most sophisticated, fastest-moving, and farthest-reaching object ever constructed by human beings, has just passed an invisible threshold in the cosmos. Launched into the heavens back in 1977, this remarkable machine has been...
It's not, I don't have time to watch all this, Steve, but surely it hasn't passed the light year yet, has it? I'll have to watch the rest of that later. But I'll watch it. If it gives me a wake-up call, I will tell you, all right? Steve Polish says, good one, Steve. I think we both know how the response will go, and it will probably begin with yes, but what if they have the ability to, in other words, speculation based on conjecture? Well, all right, I'll have to watch that to know what the hell you're talking about. I'm not watching a 22-minute video right now in the middle of making this. And Steve Mumling says to Steve Polish, it's more likely to be the secret space program solved all that decades ago. Steve Polish says, that'll be the NASA secret space program, which sends a monthly newsletter to an ex-hospital porter in Oxford. Oh, I wish they did. I really, really wish they did. Here we go. Right. So same video. Steve Polish, who says here, so if they say they don't have stuff in hangars and freezers, you won't believe them because you know that they have that already. But if they say in unequivocal terms they do have it, and that assertion came from a proven liar, deceiver, and criminal, say like a president, that would be acceptable and difficult to dismiss as a nothing burger. No, I think if this had happened 6 months ago, I'd see things differently. But I'm not just going to take Trump's word for it, because unlike 6 months ago, I think he is actually a deceiver, which I didn't used to think he is. Basically, you'll accept hearsay alone from... All right, blah-de, blah-de, blah, got it. This confirms how you deal with Apollo, blah-de, blah-de, blah. Sorry, Steve, I can't keep reading all this stuff out. You were too repetitive, and I want to keep this video entertaining, all right? The fact of the matter is, though, I mean, if... It's actually a fair point to say that there would need to be something more. There would have to be some kind of... Well, not just we have these aliens and stuff like this, and we have this saucer in the hangar. There needs to be some kind of evidence published. It doesn't have to be everything. You keep stuff classified, but it have to be evidence like that is officially recognized of some kind, just like just an acknowledgement and a basic piece of evidence package that we will actually understand. So yeah. Well, if that happens, if that doesn't happen, then I will be skeptical. Steve Polish, you draw attention to astronauts who have apparently had encounters in space, especially particularly Samantha Cristoforetti and her outburst of "Oh my God" on the ISS, but you don't explain the significance of it. I've never heard of this, Ben. What happened? All right. Well, actually, believe it or not, Samantha had 2 encounters in space. And there was actually one where there was one where Samantha, here we go. Yeah, there was this incident here. Look behind you, Samantha. She was actually in the cupola. She was in the cupola, and some UFOs fly past. But there was another incident actually earlier on where where she's actually out on the... Where is it? Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of people spoken about this. Buzz Aldrin, Gennady Sokoloff, Gordon Cooper, Stormy Musgrave. A lot of astronauts have actually talked about this. Not just one astronaut and things like that. Now, Samantha Cristoforetti involved in a spacewalk outside the ISS when she experienced something that shocked her into gasping and yelling, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God." What's even more interesting is that the response of the man assisting her on her EVA, her Russian colleague does not react to the phenomenon and immediately orders her to be silent. Is he used to such things? Has he been warned beforehand that UFOs sometimes appear and that he should keep that to himself? Was this incident, when this incident occurred, Samantha Cristoforetti was quite new on the space station, and clearly nobody had yet had a chance to take her to one side and have a quiet word. Samantha, there's a few things you need to know. Now, where is it? Where is it? Hang on. And maybe I can find a video of it. No, that's STS-48. Well, here's another good example here. STS-48. Is Samantha's here? Hang on. Samantha Cristoforetti, Italian astronaut. I'll see if I can find the video for you. And there's more videos with her here. Is this it? Yeah, this is it. I think.
Oh my God.
The voice is Samantha Cristoforetti, Italy's first female astronaut.
Here we go.
Oh my God.
Suddenly, Cristoforetti yells out in Italian, "Oh my God! Oh my God!" And the Russian cosmonaut who's with her is saying, "Calm down, calm down."
Well, this is unprecedented.
Hey, Nick.
Here she is,
Here we go.
apparently screaming in terror.
Sadly missed.
What did Cristoforetti say?
There you go. You can watch the rest later, but there you go. That's the answer to your question. And I think that's actually the end of it. Is that the end? Yes, it is. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go to the notifications, and we're going to look at those that have occurred since the... In fact, I'll use this one here. Those that have occurred while I've been filming this particular video. So let's have a look here. Let's have a look. Angry National, blah, blah, blah. Let's just see. I don't think we have any comments. No, we don't. No, nothing. Right. That's the end then. Right. Oh, well, thank you, one and all, for watching this reply to comments video. There's more videos coming very soon. As I said, I'm going to get the read or watch party for St. Theo's going soon, because it's less than a month till St. Theo's Day, and I'm going to be here for St. Theo's Day this year, because sadly I'm not going to Contact in the Desert, which I regret. There we go. I'll hopefully go next year. But anyway, thank you all of you. Obviously, like these comments, this is a reply to comments video, and without the comments there would be no video. So thank you, each and every one of you, for these comments that made this video possible, and some of them very interesting, asking me some tough questions, which I expect and I welcome and I want, because it actually makes the video better when you do that. So once again, keep the comments coming. I'm sure, please put them on the new uploads, and we will reconvene with another reply to comments video, and hopefully not after a month. So thank you all of you for watching HPANWO TV. Hospital Porters, Pride and Dignity, stop the New World Order.
Conspiracies, government cover-ups, Earth mysteries, monster cryptids, psyops, saucers and black triangles, HPANWO.